Trout, boy, he located that snap. Takes a shot back shoulder, and he's picked off. Intercepted by Christian Gonzalez. Pick six against his old team.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Five-man rush. Penix keeps backing up, lofts one up, and it is picked off. If he's in bounds, Joey Porter has it, and it is Penn State ball.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Over the middle for Holland, it's intercepted. Devin Witherspoon, room to run, past Freeman. Again. And finally tripped up by Ethan Wiedeker.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Here's Stroud being chased down, but then launches downfield. And that ball is intercepted. Bobbling it in the hands of Banks. And Deontay Banks still on his feet and brought down at the 48-yard line.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You know, it's pretty cold and there has been some nasty weather, but today it's been rather, I guess you could say, dormant when it comes to anything bad. It's spitting a little bit outside. We are here in studio and we braved whatever weather there might be, but some of you, of course, are probably under 8 to 10 feet of snow. This is 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak. This is Craig Smoak. That is Paul Catalina. Jack and Garrett are in the studios with us today, and a lot to get to, including Tom Brady, part 2 of retirement. Jaden Rashada has made a decision. I'll look back at the Big 12 last night in men's basketball, and National Signing Day, where there are some notable signings, but it's just kind of there. Not for those who signed or the schools who got signatures or received signatures, but it's just obviously so much different than in years past. And we are, until 6 o'clock tonight, on 365 Sports. Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman at 420. Also, Dr. Susan Elza, she ran the UIL for a long time. She's now the chief of staff for Mack Rhoades at Nebraska. John Machota on the Cowboys with Jerry Jones talking about Mike McCarthy today, and Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics at 3:30. Basically a little quick hit with him on the schedule release from yesterday in Paul's Top 5. So, Paul, Craig, we've done this before. Retirements are just not the same. Boxers probably retire 5 or 6 times too many. But Tom Brady is now, and this does appear to be the real deal.
Well, he said it. He said he's retiring for real. The last time, he did all that, and then it was a month later, and a lot's happened in his life since then. So, yeah, I think he knows it would be tiresome if he did the, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman coming out of retirement to box, to play football again and again and again. Plus, the teams need to move on without, the Bucks need to move on. He's still under contract with them. Teams that would pursue him need to move on. So, yeah, it's time. I mean, there's fanfare about it, but last year was the whole rollout of it, and now he even acknowledged, you only get one of those. I already did that, so now I'm just going to say I'm done for real and moving on. So, good for Tom Brady, hanging him up. I think he made the wise choice. You see how it ended against the Cowboys. I know that probably there was part of him that didn't want to go out like that, but he also is smart enough to know that coming back a year older doesn't guarantee you're not going to go out like that again, or even worse. The rest of the teams in the division aren't going to stop trying to beat you. So it took them to the second to last week to clinch it this year. So you don't want to, I wouldn't attempt fate. Just go out on a high note.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could give credit to the person I saw that put out the joke about, imagine just like walking the beach one morning and over there like on the dunes, there's Tom Brady with a full-blown retirement announcement. Like what an odd scene that would be to, walk upon. But somebody probably did this morning. Just, boom, where are these cameras coming from? And, yeah, it's official, and it feels like it's final this time around, and it's very strange because I don't think we're probably all really grasping that because we've been here, done this already, and I think that that's on him as much as anything else was that we have had false starts, and so I think there's probably a bunch of people that are waiting for him to make a different announcement again in a matter of time that we'll get to the spring, and all of a sudden it'll be – well, there's reported interest between Tom Brady and so-and-so. Like, somebody's going to get hurt, and his name's going to get thrown out there. So I don't know that as far as speculation goes, that will cease, even if this is actually the end. And it does feel like the end, like I said. But that topic will not die until we probably get through all of next year, and then people realize, like, okay, no, he's definitely not coming back. But, I mean, he hangs him up as the GOAT, although – there's already a guy who's still playing and is only a few years into his career who we talked about at length on Monday that's probably going to be right there nipping at his heels for the next decade or so and probably smashing a lot of his records in Patrick Mahomes. And I'm sure he knows that. And I'm sure he just knows that, like, hey, at some point you just got to call it. I mean, at some point it is what it is. And, I mean, you saw there at the end of the Bucs season he didn't look happy. Like, nobody on that team really looked all that, thrilled. They weren't, following up on that great Super Bowl run, and the fact that they even accomplished that was pretty remarkable when you think about it.
It was.
And so, he was able to do that and go give Tampa a Super Bowl and go prove Belichick, wrong or whatever it was were his intentions to do. He didn't need New England to win a Super Bowl. He did that on his own. And so, I mean, he's the best ever. I know people throw Montana or whoever else's name you want to throw in there, and I just mentioned Mahomes. He's not there yet, but will certainly have the time to be there, and is certainly on the right track. But, yeah, I think it's a monumental day, monumental announcement, and it feels like it's sort of not that big of a deal, which is kind of strange.
All right, well, here is, if you didn't hear it, it's like 50 seconds or so. He is just on a beach. You could tell he's just chilling. He's already announced his retirement before. We know that, in fact, last year. But this one, it's interesting. He does appear to be calm and yet melancholy, and then, of course, the emotions come in and I think that is important to see. And so here's Tom Brady. This came out, no reports. There were no reports, none other than just speculation, but no reports that Tom Brady tomorrow is going to announce his retirement. I never saw any of that, just the speculation that this was, is it or not, and here it is.
I'll get to the point right away. I'm retiring for good. I know the process was a pretty big deal last time, so when I woke up this morning, I figured I'd just press record and let you guys know first. So I won't be long-winded. I think you only get one super emotional retirement essay, and I used mine up last year. So really thank you guys so much to every single one of you for supporting me, my family, my friends, my teammates, my competitors. I could go on forever. There's too many. Thank you guys for allowing me to live my absolute dream. I wouldn't change a thing. Love you all.
All right, so there's Tom Brady, just right there on the beach, decides to let it loose. And, I think about all the guys that helped him and how many he helped become Super Bowl champions. I thought, and I know he was already the GOAT, and again, that's debatable. We can go all the way back to the 50s if you want. I get that. But the GOAT, when it comes to the Super Bowl era, Montana was always a part of that conversation among some others. But when he went to Tampa and won there, and I was fortunate to be at that game, but when he went to Tampa and won there, if there was ever a doubt that no matter how this past season ended, did that put the emphatic stamp, bam, confirmed on anything?
I think if you didn't already think a guy with 6 Super Bowls was the GOAT, and he got to 7 and you didn't think so, you're you're a douche. I mean, like, bottom line, you don't understand how sports works. You just don't like him. I mean, you've decided I don't like Tom Brady, and I'm going to say negative things about him for whatever reason. I love that he said at the end, I wouldn't change a thing, which is great. And, like, I wonder if he'd be like, I would have changed one thing. Like, what one thing? Like, dude, everything was awesome for you. And it's because, look, part of this is, and I think sometimes we leave this out when it comes to the greats at anything. Like, Michael Jordan outworked everybody. He was really talented, but he outworked everybody. Tiger Woods, really talented. He outworked everybody. Tom Brady, talented, overlooked, had the story about the 6 quarterbacks drafted in front of him, the 6th-round draft pick and all that, and went on to be the greatest because he outworked everybody. And he was always ahead of the game when it came to all that. So, if you can try to convince yourself that somebody else, especially in the salary cap era, everything that happened, look at the rosters in New England. The best roster they ever had, they actually didn't win a Super Bowl that year. When he had Randy Moss, that was the best roster the Patriots ever had, and they had some really good ones. But the way that they were able to win with some of those rosters and just know and have that edge, there's no question he's the GOAT.
Here are some graphics, Craig, and you can talk over them if you want. But there's some graphics about, just to put things in perspective, the 2 decades of him being a quarterback. And look how, no matter how he started out with a bang, with that upset win against the Rams and Kurt Warner and company, and Vinatieri hitting the kick in the field goal, look at the comparisons between the 2 decades that are almost eerily mirrored, with the Super Bowl titles, with the Super Bowl appearances, all of that, MVP, Super Bowl MVPs, win percentage, all of that, division, all the way down, including, of course, the last Super Bowl. But that's a graphic just to kind of put things in perspective on Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, it says it all. I mean, I don't really need to rehash his number of Super Bowls and all that. It's right there on the screen, or was for you to read. And I mean, people put Jim Brown maybe in the greatest football player of all time conversation. He's another one. Joe Montana. I'm sure any other number of guys I'm not thinking of. And again, there's some guys right now playing, or at least one in Kansas City, that people already start to throw into that argument. But I mean, I think that's a very interesting one that Gary can leave right there. Is 7 Super Bowls. That's pretty insane, and I think that's basically impossible to argue with. And two franchises having done that, he's got more Super Bowls by himself than every team in the NFL, even the Patriots. I mean, that's the mic drop. That's all that needs to be said right there. Anybody wants to argue, give them that graphic and say, okay, then explain this, because that's all you need to know, is that he has more Super Bowls than every single team in the entire NFL, including the one who he gave 6 to. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. Charles Haley had a bunch. Marv Fleming had a bunch, but
he did all that for the Patriots after the Cowboys had already won 5. Years after the Cowboys had won 5. They won 5.
That's a great point, because that's that drought we've talked about. The Cowboys and the Steelers were back and forth. The 49ers got involved in the most Super Bowls, and the Patriots had none. None. At the time they won their first. You're right. He did all that after a bunch of them had most of the ones you saw in that graphic. That's crazy good. So there's Tom Brady. Chat room, good afternoon. The text line, 254-339-1122. And also today, the day after the Big 12 release, Craig had a big article today in the premium section of SicEm365.com, as he broke down the schedule and has been getting questions and comments and opinions on what he wrote. We'll get into that a little bit later on. And again, Mack Rhoades here in just a moment. However, we're not done. Jaden Rashada has found the new home. Kenny Dillingham doing pretty well there. The quarterback who had all the stories, all the drama, the Florida screwing up the NIL or whatever the story is, he commits to play not far from where he's from in California at Arizona State.
Yeah, and it was interesting to note in the stories I read about him, the sources are around Jaden Rashada are saying that this time when he went through this part of the recruitment, it wasn't about how many deals you can get before you get on campus. I think he learned his lesson there. He's going to get money. We know that. But, he got so burned and then dragged through the mud through all that stuff. And, I don't even think he's the biggest one to blame and all that. I think we've been through that. So I'm glad for him. That's his dream school, really, anyway. That's where his dad went to school. That's where, he when Jaden Rashada was running around as a little kid, the shirts he had, the clothes he was wearing was Arizona State because that's where his dad played. Dad played for Phil Snow, as a matter of fact, there at Arizona State. So, that's a huge get for Kenny Dillingham. I really hope it works out for Jaden and for Arizona State because, I kind of feel bad that he's gotten dragged through this when it was adults in the room that made this shady deal. And now, it's kind of exposed what we already knew about NIL anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good job by Kenny Dillingham to just swoop in there and land him. But given the connections, it makes sense. It's not like it's some really super random, like, where did this come from? I mean, there's actually some reasoning behind it outside of just recruiting. And so, great get for Arizona State. I mean, I don't know where that ranks as far as the highest prospects that they've signed over the years, but I'd have to imagine he's pretty high up there. To look at their quarterback room right now, it's not going to be a situation where he's got to be thrust right into the action because of what they were able to do through the transfer portal. And you're going to have Drew Pine and Trent Bourget. I don't know if that's the proper pronunciation, but those will be your two main guys. And so he can sit back and just develop, which is, not going to probably always be the case with super high-profile quarterbacks and hasn't always been the case, but I think that will be good for him to kind of just slow the ride down a little bit. Like, you got your big wild recruiting, situation finally under control. You're not going to be under the microscope now because, hey, you're signed and you're sealed and you're delivered, and Miami fans can leave you alone, and you just Florida fans and whoever can just be done with you. Although I'm sure he'll hear from them forever in his mentions, depending on how he performs over time. But now he can just focus on the Sun Devils. And everybody else can focus on themselves. And, Kenny Dillingham and that program can get to work on trying to correct all the issues left by Herm Edwards and just trying to find their place in this new Pac-12 that's soon to transform with the LA schools leaving. So, really great get for Kenny Dillingham. He's a super young coach, but he, like Rashada with the bloodlines that you mentioned, I mean, Dillingham obviously has very strong ties himself to Arizona State. So that's an interesting little hometown-ish kind of combination that maybe is the spark that they need to sort of thrust themselves back into prominence. That'd make a great story.
It's you know what? It's kind of a nice part of it's all back to where it probably almost started in the first place, as you mentioned, with Dillingham, his father there. Phil Snow was talking to us a couple weeks ago about that when we saw him in Waco, when Nebraska had their coaches in town, Matt Rhoades, Garrett McGuire, Evan Cooper, and others. All right,
and
so
looking at Dillingham's offense, I mean, if you're Rashada, like, hey, that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense from a lot of different standpoints, and I like that it wasn't some big splash. It's kind of like Brady's retirement. It's like we did the whole thing already. We did the big, to-do before, so let's just make a decision and get to work, right? Or in Brady's case, get to retirement. And so I like that there wasn't necessarily a ton of a circus around this, just going and making your decision and making it official.
And yet again, I don't know if I saw anybody that I don't care about too much. I know everyone has their sights. I didn't see that. Like tomorrow, or he's going to, or committed. He just kind of quietly, after so much time and drama and energy. Good for Jaden Rashada. All right, so the next day after the Big 12 and their football release, your thoughts the next day. The chat room, the text line, 254-339-1122. Anything that maybe after you started digging into it, I was on a phone with one of our great sponsors, TFNB Bank, Your Bank for Life, with Jason Lavender. He's like, so why aren't we playing Oklahoma and Oklahoma State? He's excited as somebody that's a part of as a corporate sponsor of Baylor football and athletics, 8 home games. But why aren't we? And then, again, you're kind of into a new territory with 14 teams at least for this year. And so there's reasons you don't get to play. In fact, you don't get to play 5 of the teams, right? Including yourself, 4 of the teams, including yourself, because of the number. Craig, you wrote an article. Paul, you obviously kind of dug around it a little bit at that. Anything in particular that wasn't maybe front and center yesterday that is today?
No, I've got a top 5 on it later, just about some of the bummers of the schedule, or not the bummers. That's tomorrow, maybe. I have to kind of go through that, but like of the the toughest ones. But yeah, I think that I've heard that like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and all those different things happening. But again, just the you're not going to play non-conference games. You're not going to play 13 regular season games. So something had to give, and get used to not playing every team in the conference every year. Like, I know that we probably, in the Big 12 country got spoiled by seeing everybody play each other in the round robin in every sport every year, but that's over starting now. So, this is the first one you get to see of like, well, not playing Oklahoma this year, not playing Oklahoma State. Well, that's a bummer, especially not going to play Oklahoma on the way out, but, there's no other way to do it. It's just math.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of info to sort through, and I haven't gone about ranking everybody's schedules. I've seen that some have already, gotten to that. I think, it's just so premature that I saw a lot of people predicting their schools to go 10-2 or 9-3 or 8-4 or whatever the case may be. And, I mean, I know if Baylor's the norm, then every single one of those 14 schools right now still has a lot of questions to answer in the next few months, and some of them are going to look different in a few months than they look right this very moment. So to predict a season record right now, I mean, I think you can do that, but I also think that you're not working with all of the information that we're going to have when the games actually, start to get underway and matter. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of, I don't know if there's like stuff that really stands out, but there's just a lot of interesting things, like which teams are missing which teams. I think the whole lack of round robin is going to be very interesting to get used to again, because yeah, like you might be a team that one year you draw, a schedule where you don't play the top team, and you don't play like maybe even the second best team, and you get to avoid them. And here in this year, at least, you might avoid like 3 or 4 of the best teams because of the amount of teams that won't be on your schedule with 14. But yeah, I think it was mostly just, like, hey, this team's not playing Oklahoma, or Oklahoma's not playing this team, or this team's, not playing Texas, and vice versa. I think those are the most notable. Everything else will kind of work itself out in the wash. I thought it was, interesting to see, what the new schools are looking at in terms of their schedule, and, what fun road trip do they feel like they get early on, and, what cool home game do they now get to host that otherwise they haven't been able to host before. What teams come into town that's never been in town before. So I think that newness is pretty cool. But yeah, as far as just like major things that stand out, it's a lot of just that kind of deal for everybody across the board. And I'm sure over time, as everything becomes a little clearer, we can look back and say like, oh man, that critical stretch right there, that really turned out to be the this or that. But it's hard to tell at the moment.
All right, when we come back, Mack Rhoades, he's the director of athletics for Baylor. His schedule condensed because tomorrow and Friday, Big 12 meetings going on. The schedule released, of course, yesterday at 1. And, man, we can't thank you enough that a lot of you who normally are waiting for us or being a part of this show between 3 and 6 Central, you were there from pretty much the start yesterday. We put out a few of the alerts, but we can't always reach everybody. But the numbers yesterday, fantastic. Thank you so much for being a part of it, and hope you enjoyed what we did to unveil and then digest and discuss and also get feedback from you among other schools that are a part of the Big 12 on the release of the schedule. When we come back, Mack Rhoades, director of athletics at Baylor, his thoughts about the schedule. It's really what it's going to be today. He's not even really enough time, but he's going to come on and kind of just discuss the schedule, the 8 home games, and maybe a game or 2 that he thought maybe Baylor should be a part of or not. That is next on 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace, just off 35 in the southern part of Waco on the west side of I-35, with a business and a location and inside of what is fantastic, MRI, finding images, evidence of what is possibly hurting you to enough where it hurts bad enough you can't sleep, you can't function, and all of us have been there, at least if, well, I think unless you're really, really lucky. It could even be something that's not an injury, but something that's flared up inside of your body for whatever reason. If your doctor wants an MRI, ask for an MRI, then you tell them, please call and get the appointment with Ideal MRI. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff have done an incredible job in putting together a fantastic location for you. One, the MRI machine is state-of-the-art. It's fantastic. And number two, it's $497 or less, and the average is $1,100. If you have something that is aching and something that hurts so bad, and your doctor wants an MRI, you want an MRI, don't forget about IdealMRI.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is normally with us on Tuesday, but this week is condensed, it's packed, it's crazy. Big 12 meetings Thursday and Friday, which we'll get into those next week after they're done. He joins us on 365 Sports, and thank you. We appreciate your time. We know there's a lot going on. What was, and you probably saw your schedule and knew it a little bit in advance, but what jumped out at you? Was it the 8 home games or something else?
I mean, obviously knew of the 8 home games, just given our non-conference, and all 3 of those being at home, and knowing that this was going to be the year that we were going to play 5 Big 12 games at home and 4 on the road. So I thought it was a good balance. Probably what stood out most is just 5 of 6. Your first 5 of 6 at home. Certainly wasn't maybe expecting that. When you think, obviously knew Texas State, Utah, Long Island, but just how the next 3 would play out, the Texas and Texas Tech at home, and then UCF sandwich in between. So that's probably what surprised me most. I really like the schedule. I like where the bye week falls. I think there's a good mix and balance in terms of home and away. We had long conversations within the conference just about the sequencing and playing back-to-back road trips. We've talked about it on this show with the addition of BYU and Cincy and UCF. Those are long trips like West Virginia, and so making sure you weren't doing that, going those places back-to-back. And so the home game in between those 2 at UCF and at Cincinnati, I think is good. So not a whole lot to complain about. I think it's an aggressive schedule. It's a really tough schedule, but we'll look forward to playing it, and continuing to play the schools in Texas. Texas Tech and now adding Houston and TCU. I think that's going to continue to be important for our fans and for our program as well.
What's it like for someone, you've been in this business for a long time, and scheduling is a big part of what you do every year, and the stress of it and all of that, to have to look at a schedule, and this is this 1 year schedule, and not have to think about it like, well, then next year we're going to have to go to this place and that place because next year you guys are going to have to pretty much do all this again.
Yeah, next year, you're right, Paul. It's it won't be common opponents. So those that we're playing necessarily at home, we're going to play those exact opponents on the road, and so it'll be a new schedule that a computer helps to spit out, and again it takes into account just competitiveness of the programs over the last 5 years. It certainly takes into account geography and some of our principles, and in terms of just home and away, and so we'll start that over now. I do think that there's an opportunity once we get down to the number of teams, right, being solid in terms of the number of teams within the conference. I do think there's an opportunity to be able to put out a schedule, at least 2 years at a time, and maybe even longer than that. And I think also when we think about future Big 12 schedule, I believe, and this is my opinion, at least at this point in time, we're going to have some really thoughtful conversation how we schedule conference-wise. And I'm not saying we should change it, but I do think we need to have the conversation when we think about a 12-team playoff. And what helps the Big 12 get as many teams into the 12-team playoff as possible. And, that's going to be really important if, it comes down to some type of, revenue share model where there's a premium for the teams, that make it to the playoff, and hence the conferences that those teams reside in. So I think a lot for us to be thinking about as we move forward.
Mack, as we've talked about, you can't play everybody, but I'm sure most teams out there would love to have played Oklahoma and Texas. You do get Texas, so that's great. You don't get Oklahoma, but you also don't play Oklahoma State, which is just that's different. You've been playing the Oklahoma schools for well over a decade. Any level of disappointment or anything along those lines and not seeing them, or just was it kind of weird to not see them on the schedule now?
Yeah, I think that's a really good description. I think it was kind of weird. It felt like Oklahoma State, Baylor in football, that was starting to heat up as a pretty good rivalry. And we've got great respect for Oklahoma State. Obviously played them not this most recent year, but the year before in the champ game. And Coach Gundy does a great job. And so, that's a little bit, different and, a little bit bittersweet. Again, I think we have a great schedule, but we'll miss playing them just from a competitive standpoint and what that game meant, each and every year. And then, Oklahoma, sure. I mean, there's some sadness and, don't know, it's the question everybody continues to ask, will we remain, 14 for the last 2 years of this TV contract, or, is it going to be 14 and then drop down to 12? And so there's this possibility that we may never, play, Oklahoma again as a conference opponent. And that's a little bit bittersweet because I think that has turned into a pretty darn good rivalry as well. So, Craig, you're right on. But it's, moving forward and, certainly I think the opportunities to play, the 3 of the 4, teams, new members of the team, I think that's really great opportunity for us, and look forward to hosting Houston and look forward to the 2 road trips in Orlando and Cincinnati.
Mack, the schedule obviously has been mentioned. Not everybody can play everybody. There's no division. So what are the contingencies? Are there like 15 different tiebreakers on how in the end? Because you weren't around, but you remember what happened in 14 with TCU and Baylor. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, no, I've heard about that a couple times. What was it? One true champion?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I've heard that. So yes, there are scenarios for tiebreakers, and you might be right when you say 15, but it's the way of the world, and that's where everybody's headed. And I think you've already seen some of the Power Fives that were divisional, right, getting out of divisions with the recent change in NCAA legislation. It required divisions to play a championship game, and the Big 12 obviously went to the NCAA and got a waiver because we were less than 12 teams, and so we were able just with 10 to play the championship game. But I think everybody is going to head in the direction where it's no divisions. I still think it's really hard to be able to say, hey, your 2 best teams are going to play most definitely in the conference championship when, not everybody's going to get to play everyone. And so that was hard. That was the beauty and the uniqueness of having 10 and, with 9 non-conference games, because you played every opponent. So to address your question, I think it's where we're all headed, and we're gonna have to navigate it as best we can in a most fair and competitive way.
Does the 12-team playoffs have the burn for that? Like you talked about a little bit of maybe your best 2 teams don't play because of, the schedule's different. Somebody, might have a loss. You might have 2 teams that are undefeated. One of the teams undefeated, not necessarily your best team, but because of that 12-team playoff, you think that maybe that second best team can get in?
Yeah, no, I do. Paul, I think that, the 12-team playoff, that expansion helps. And, I'm excited, personally about 12 teams, because you think, last, 2 out of 3 years, 19 and 21, I mean, Baylor would have been in it twice. And so I'm excited about it. And I think for, the Big 12, I really think about it. It's not how do we get 2 in, but how do we get 3, and maybe even a 4th when we think about, expanding to 12. And so, again, it's going to be – I'm not sure that we change anything we're doing, but I do think we need to kind of pause and have some conversation. Say, all right, moving forward, do we really have the best model when we think about, greatest opportunity to get teams into the 12?
At one point in time, you had Louisiana Tech scheduled, but that got scrapped over a year ago, and you had a non-conference game to make up. You guys ended up playing Albany last year, but Long Island this year fills out the schedule. I'd asked you about, what was the remaining game that hadn't been announced, and it turns out it's the Long Island Sharks. So how did that come to be?
Yeah, I mean, we needed to fill the hole, right, with La Tech going off the schedule, and just quite frankly, there weren't a whole lot of choices at the time. It's the first time, like Utah, that we'll ever play Long Island, and we really wanted an FCS matchup, and that's not to be disrespectful to Long Island, but they have less scholarships, probably not as physical. And, trying to sandwich it, not knowing, what was September 23rd was going to look like, but trying to sandwich it, in between and help our guys continue to grow. I think going into this upcoming season, we're still going to be a really young team. And so, that was certainly part of it when we were thinking about the maturity of our team and where it is, competitively. And just feels like it's a good game coming off, what's going to be, I think a heck of a football game against Utah. Coach Whittingham has done an unbelievable job there, and they've been, if not at the top, near the top in the Pac-12, over the last 2 to 3 years.
Mack, last thing, and I know tomorrow's Big 12 meetings and all that goes on with it. Did you and others notice that when everybody kind of had their own graphic of releasing the schedule, like an invitation, that a couple of schools just retweeted the Big 12 and the other 12 kind of like it was like a celebration?
Yes, I did. I did notice that. So I did, and I do think we've got a group of 12 that's really close and really supportive and really excited, and I think there's, again, really good camaraderie in the room, in the president chancellor room, in the AD room, and I think this conference, Big 12, is going to be a conference to be reckoned with in the future. And we've got really, really good people. We've got really good sport programs across the board. Football has been extremely competitive from top to bottom. The bottom end of the league has certainly improved dramatically, and I think next year with the 4 new, this is going to be as competitive a football conference as anybody in the country.
Mack, is there a chance this is the last year that Texas and Oklahoma end up on the schedule?
Yeah, I do think there's a chance, and certainly don't want to be disingenuous and say no, absolutely there's not a chance. There is a chance, and I think that still remains to be played out, and hopefully we have direction for everybody involved, right? For the 12 of us, for Oklahoma and Texas, that we have some clarity, here in the near future, and we know what it's going to look like, and I just think that's best. That's healthy for everyone.
Thank you, sir, for your time. We appreciate it. I know you got a crazy schedule. Enjoy the Big 12 meetings up in Dallas and Fort Worth this week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics, and we got about 15 minutes with him when he didn't have 2. Would appreciate that. And I just wanted to, again, it's not to just stir it up, but that's a legitimate question that could be why this is the one-off. He kind of alluded to that a little bit with one of the answers to either Craig or Paul, one of the two of you, when he was talking about no Oklahoma or whatever, that, maybe then you turn around and, yeah. But yeah, that's absolutely, it's still, I would still think that other than the release, don't you think that is still the story? Is it the last year that Texas and Oklahoma will be a part of the Big 12 schedule?
Yeah, and I think the schedule is set up to make it that way when it is. I mean, because there's not like you said, and we've had two different athletic directors say this is a one-off schedule. So if it wasn't, then you could have had those things where return trips are possible. You could have done this is the schedule this year, and then the schedule next year, the teams that you didn't play, you do play, and then some others come off, but that's not going to be the case. And clearly they're not planning for it, or they're planning for both contingencies. And I would think that eventually it does get done because it seems like everybody wants it to. And deadlines make deals. So we'll see what happens when they get down to the, better do it before this date, or it can't happen. Then all of a sudden it'll happen.
Yeah, I just wish we had that date. I wish we had a date that we all just knew.
I think everybody
would. This is what we're gonna, have as our final, line in the sand as far as what's gonna happen next year. I mean, that's all. Because now this could drag out for the next several months. It probably will. I mean, maybe we get some sort of summertime. I would assume that, conference media days would be a very splashy time to announce, like, hey, this is the final go-around, somewhere in that time frame, potentially. Maybe we'd hear some sort of final decision. Obviously, it wouldn't probably be best served in the middle of the football season. You'd want to kind of know going in so you can, do your victory lap or your, final, goodbyes or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it's only February 1st. I would think hopefully by July that we would know, to be sure, by the time Big 12 Media Day starts up, that we would know for sure. So that gives us a little while longer to wait. But we've been waiting, ever since that story first broke from Brent Zorneman. And that's been a couple years now at this point. So it's not like it's an unfamiliar conversation. It's just an annoying one at this point for, I think, every single person or party involved, including the Mack Rhoades of the world, including us who just would like some finality and like to kind of know what everybody's walking into. And I'm sure for Oklahoma and Texas and all that, they encompass from administration to fans, everybody would just like an answer. So, yeah, that's the big burning question. And at some point, a decision will have to be made, but not for at least the next several months, but maybe they'll surprise us.
And we were waiting for the schedule. That eventually came. It was a lot longer than most anyone could have thought, including the commissioner, including everybody involved, including us, including you, the fan base, but it's out there. So that's a check. There's a check. Tomorrow and Friday, Dennis Dodd on CBSSports.com with a story that basically part of the agenda, some of the agenda, one is going to be discussion about Gonzaga in men's basketball. That is going to be a part of the agenda. Part of the agenda is going to be what are the discussions they have about Texas and Oklahoma and what the timeline will be, and will they ever come to an agreement of what it will take for them to leave early, what will it take for them to send to the Big 12 and members, and all of that as well, and then some stories as well, other agenda. But CBS, Dennis Dodd has a good piece on it earlier today in a column he wrote. But those are two parts of the agenda. All right, it's 3:47. When we come back, John Machota today at 5:30 on the Cowboys. Paul's Top 5 right after that. We also today will hear from Ross Tucker from the Ross Tucker podcast, former NFL lineman, on many things, including the Super Bowl next week in Phoenix. And if we haven't told you and you haven't heard, we will be there in Phoenix next Tuesday through Friday from NFL Media Headquarters in the Phoenix Convention Center and also Super Bowl 57. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How? Well, you have to contact him. You can do that by going online, PettyClinicalOT.com. There's an email, phone number, or even online you can contact them, and you can absolutely tell them I sent you. In fact, that'd be great. And what they will do is set you up with an appointment. You then go get your blood work. They take care of that. When you walk in the door, they will either send you like a form or they'll have the form at the window wherever you go and get your blood work. That's up between you and Dr. Petty and his staff. Once you're there, they get your blood. After that's done, he'll get the results. Your testosterone levels will be checked, and if they're too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you sleep better, your sex drive is better, your focus and energy better across the board. PettyClinicalOT.com.
The President's Day sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the great selection of new cars, trucks, and SUVs and get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler sedans, and minivans, or a sporty Dodge. Get more for less, guaranteed. More value, more selection, more service, and more trade-in allowance. And of course, if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams and order it today. It's the President's Day sales event happening right now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So I saw a couple of things of interest to me that are NIL related, and we have, it's 3:52, this is 365 Sports. One, Ross Dellinger, Paul put this in a tweet to both Craig, a text to Craig, and to me earlier in the week. We didn't have time to discuss it. The doors are opening for NCAA to close in on NIL violations. There's a couple of hitches here we'll get to. But also today, on3.com, Shannon Terry had a story or a tweet that said something to the effect that everything is leveling off in the NIL. That it is, we've discussed this before. Would it ever level off? In fact, remember the Tulane director of athletics discussing that about a week or two ago, that it was starting to level off and that some of the collectives are not getting the same kind of money that they got when they were receiving when it was kind of fresh and exciting.
Well, I do think that, after a couple of years or, really a full year of this and collectives being there, you're also having to raise money. And if I'm a university donor or somebody and people come to me all the time asking for money because I've got a lot of it. If I say, okay, I'm asking Craig for $1 million, and Craig's like, what's the $1 million for? I'm like, well, we need to do some improvements to the arena. I can see the improvements to the arena. I can see that they put in new seats. I can see that, there are, improved concessions or whatever. So that is tangible. NIL is not tangible. And people who, for the most part, I know this isn't completely 100% bulletproof, but for the most part, people who have money often wonder exactly where that's going to go and how it's going to pay off for them. And if you're saying, well, we are doing this to make sure that we get this kid here to play quarterback, and he'll like, oh, that'd be great. Okay. But is he good? Well, everybody says he is. Yeah, but how do I know? What if he tears his knee? Am I out $1 million? You're like, yeah, you're probably still going to be out $1 million. For me, I'd rather buy new toilets in the stadium than give it to somewhere because that's tangible. So I do think that they that stuff has balanced out, and I think the Jaden Rashada situation might have been a flashpoint for a lot of people in similar situations of, well, we can't promise we can't pay, and maybe this needs to change.
Yeah, I mean, that was long predicted that eventually everybody would kind of wake up from the absolute dream fever or fever dream that they were in when they realized, oh, wow, we can pay guys on, the surface and not have to hide it in lockers after games or $100 handshakes or whatever. Like, wow, we can just do this all in the open and we just got to do it under a collective. Okay. But then money starts to get thrown around and then, all of a sudden you realize there's a Jaden Rashada situation or, the guy that you paid for is not quite what you thought he was going to be, or it sets a bad precedent, and all of a sudden now you're, got word spreading around that, hey, this school's giving out $10K, blah, blah, so now every time you talk to a recruit, probably you're hearing, that they've talked to other recruits and word's gotten out, and now that's something you got to deal with constantly, and I'm sure there's all sorts of things we're not even thinking of that have become problematic because of this issue, and not everything necessarily – major and, oh my gosh, this is the end of college football and anything like that. But just, things pop up that are unforeseen or things pop up that are maybe bigger deals than you thought that they might be. And there's probably some things that are lesser deals. But ultimately, there's just a lot of chaos, a lot of freaking chaos going on when this first kind of got underway. And, all due respect, you see some of these sites, and On3 is one of them, like their valuations. I know a lot goes into that, but there's certain ones you're just like, huh? Like, that dude's worth that? Like, how? How is that even possible? And so I think everybody was, we're dealing with what information we had, also dealing with trying to fill in the blanks with what we didn't have. And some of that's just naturally going to be incorrect to some degree. And so everybody's got a better idea a couple years in of kind of what the room looks like, what is normal, what is a realistic expectation, and what is just flat out like, you read Twitter too much when it comes to NIL and all of this. So I think that's a good thing that it's all that it's starting to settle. And look, ultimately it'll work because those who are deserving and who are the big brands themselves and the big brands that want to pay those athlete brands, I mean, that's still all going to happen. But some of this just kind of let's load up and everybody gets a certain, I think some of that's going to start to dissipate, but that will be good for all involved.
I think that there's a couple of things, NIL, and I want to get to the tweet from Shannon Terry after I say this. I think just like coaches who all of a sudden are interested in jobs or their names come up or they're targeted, agents floating that out as well just to help their client where they are right now or to get something better. Here's Shannon Terry from On3.com, and they do a great job. A lot of places do now about the NIL and the values of certain players. But let's read this one. With NIL euphoria easing and our data being more available, we are entering a phase where collectives are raising and deploying far less money than they originally planned. Roster values will be impacted in 23, and a more efficient marketplace is starting to take shape. Now, some collectives are probably raising as much as they thought they would or more. But in this particular case, one of the responses, I just want to read the response. It was only a matter of time. We're starting to see collectives getting smarter with some of the tools available to create passive revenue streams and a renewed interest in local regional businesses. ROI will be the key for engagement.
Yes. You got to have return on investment. Like I said before, you have to have return on investment. And, it is worth it to me if I'm a regional chain of, Raising Cane's was the thing that came into my mind, where they've got a couple of NIL deals with guys and they kind of focus them in the region. If I'm and that's a national company now, but if I was, the one level below that where, I've got 30 restaurants in Georgia and that's my thing, then Stetson Bennett makes a lot of sense to me. More people like Stetson Bennett. They'll enjoy watching Stetson. They'll think it's cool that Stetson Bennett's doing something with me, as opposed to, some of the other stuff that they're doing. So that makes sense. But and the other thing is, I think it is the ROI will burn the guys who are like, well, I'm not setting foot here for less than this much. And there's going to be plenty of schools that go, fine, we don't need you that bad. And then, those numbers start to come down to earth because, again, if you're 17 and you have not proven it at the level yet, like, you might get a little something to get there to sweeten the pot, but ultimately you're going to have to earn it. And that's the way that most things work in the business world.
Now, should add that, who you're originally taking this from, Shannon Terry, also said in basically the same breath that NIL has been a massive business boon for them, and so they're further expanding NIL coverage. So what was his exact quote?
Isn't that interest, though? Because
it's interest. It's been such a monster success. We're expanding into full coverage around the business of college sports, veteran business reporters, NIL coverage, media rights, transactions, brands. I'm so tired of hearing the word brands. Like, I'm so tired of certain buzzwords, and that's one of them.
Brands.
That's definitely one of them. But I mean, not to take away from the message there, I think so there's definitely interest, but I do think that they, in general with NIL as well, I wonder how many people realized while in that vein it may be exceptionally popular, but just how many people realize, like, how many people don't care either about the NIL aspect of everything. Like, that's an interesting message for a certain segment of college football fans. That's an eye roll from another segment of college football fans, because the whole Jaden Rashada thing, to me, like, it was interesting, but when we started getting, like, in the weeds about it, I was like, I don't care. I do not care about this 18-year-old kid and what is being offered. I mean, it's interesting to a point, but after a while, it's just like, give me some free agency rules. This is ridiculous. This is a clown show. And that's what it turned into, and it turned into a big old embarrassment for Florida, and it's not one that they can't recover from. But, while it'll settle in and become more professional and more streamlined and definitely more about the guys who actually do pull eyeballs, or guys and girls that do pull eyeballs and pull the big brands, hopefully that does put a lot of the other kind of circusy stuff to the wayside, because I do think that as much as that may add in certain areas, it also detracts, I think, from other people's enjoyment as well, and to my enjoyment to a certain degree.
Katie Rader, $20 super chat just now popped up. I was about to read another chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys in chat this week, starting the Hump Day swag fund. There you go.
Salute.
And I always want to say, with Katie Rader, she's the one when we had Joey McGuire live on the show a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, that she's the one that said, hey, ask him about the helmet, and he sent an autographed helmet, which is behind us on the, or I can't tell sometimes because I'm looking left or right.
It's behind Paul.
Behind Paul. There you go. The Joey McGuire autographed helmet. Thank you very much for that. So thank you, Katie Rader. There are a lot of you that on the NIL think that it's going to only get. And here's Eric Nefrin. I hope I say that right. 1999 super chat. I'm pitching in with Katie. Wow. Thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank you so much.
And you can do that. And when it comes up, we will read it. But we'll read a lot of other of your chat comments too.
That's the guaranteed way to get your comment read.
That is a guarantee.
Put a dollar figure next to it. We will definitely get to it. The other ones we'll get to, as we can. But that's the definite way to get to them.
Well, no, I mean, we will try to. It doesn't. We've missed one super chat and we paid for it. I mean, we literally got hammered for it.
I will say this: we are not the NIL when it comes to super chat. Like, we're going to deliver. For sure. We're not some kid that's saying, that's what we'll do. We respect the super chats. But I do want to talk, and we probably have to do this in the next segment, but that's Ross Dallin shit.
We're not going to do it on this segment.
Yeah, no, I said the next segment.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but it is because it opens the door to that. But what the NCAA is trying to do is, like, interesting in theory, but, like, there's so many holes that can get poked in it. I think they're just going to wind up right back where they started. So there are some interesting things they're doing to try to rope all this in as well.
By the way, someone asked, I think it was about what is your brand? Ryan Nelson asked, what is your man? Who wants to know our brands? When we come back, if you had a brand that you wanted to have an NIL deal with, or what you wanted your brand to be with an NIL, I just threw mine out there just because I love golf. We'll come back with that as well. And the door's opening for the NCAA to close in on NIL violations. Really? Is it? It's a pretty good idea, but will it hold up as far as in court or anywhere else for that matter? This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. That might be my brand right there. But they are the best place for Texas craft bourbons. If you're a fan of bourbons, and especially ones that are made in the great state of Texas, they've got the best place to go for that. They've always got the greatest varieties of them, the most varieties when they have new stuff in. There's always something new to try. So if you are a fan of that, then you've got to get there because they're second to none. They're second to none in their customer service. They're second to none in the speed of their drive-through window. I've never seen anything like it, and as you can tell by this face, I've been to a lot of drive-thrus in my life. So they're unbelievable at everything they do. Always have cool promotions going on, whether it is bourbon or craft beer or seltzer or wine, whatever. They've got cool promotions all the time going on. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank, also available on DoorDash.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
one size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one size fits all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Former NFL offensive lineman Ross Tucker will join us in a moment. Also, a thought for you if you're looking for a unique Valentine gift. He's been with us before for what they do with Front Page. We'll get to that with Ross and also discuss Chiefs and Eagles and more, even the Cowboys news with them. But today is National Signing Day, too. It used to be the day. It was unbelievable. We were just loaded with players who signed, those coaches and programs, whatever. But a quick little note on today. From National Signing Day today, Craig, you have some notes in front of you. Paul, as you guys kind of discuss this as well, and I'll have my thoughts as Alabama just rolled right through it this year.
Yeah, you do also need to circle back to the question we had going into the break about
the brand. Mine
thing.
would be Titleist.
What was the question? I didn't even know
well,
what the
if
question
you had a
is.
brand, just what would your brand be? As far as it doesn't have to be a product, but I said Titleist because I love Titleist golf balls and I love to play golf.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to go with that, right? Like, do you want to go the food route? Do you want to go the vehicle route? Do you want to go the clothing route? Like,
Cadillac, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard to pass up, like, a super, nice, like, car brand. I think that would be good.
Ram truck?
Nike would be hard to turn down. I mean, just being a Nike athlete's a dream. Sure. For some, it might be Adidas or something else, but I'm thinking car or like clothing brand is probably where I would go. Respect to the guys who go Applebee's or whatever, but yeah, I think I'd go more of the luxurious clothes or vehicle as much as I'm not like looking for attention. That's just the stuff that appeals to me the most.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I mean, maybe, a nice high-end bourbon would like me to, talk about them. I would certainly, that would be my brand for sure. But, if you've got a really nice barbecue place, believe me, that's on brand for me. But, mostly like I'll tell you when it comes to apparel, as long as it's in like the big 7 of stuff where like everything's good as far as sports apparel goes, I'd be fine with all of them. Nike, Adidas, Puma,
there is
Under
something
Armour,
about that logo, that Nike logo.
Oh yeah, I mean, again,
it's just so sleek.
If I was in with the other 6, or 7, or there's like 8 like good companies, and then like I was like, all right, well, I'll let you guys know at the end of the day. Didn't hear from Nike, bummer. And then Nike said you want in. I'd be like, yes, I'm in.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Just
all
how
right.
it is.
So Craig, let's just kind of give a little bit of an overview here. The rest of this segment on National Signing Day today.
Yeah, I mean, just one quick note on Baylor, because that's who we always circle back to because where we're based. But they had basically signed all of their class, and they finished that today with signing the linebacker Corey Kelly, who is from Texas. But he was the last remaining holdout, and we had gotten word a few days ago, and he had mentioned it on social media, that he was going to be officially signing with Baylor. I think there were some other schools, involved, but he's out of Clear Falls down in the Houston area, and they're definitely in need of some linebackers, so big deal to go ahead and get him all signed, sealed, and delivered after, inking most of their class back on the original signing day. So that's just more of a relief, and just, okay, you can check that one off, and now they can fully move forward. But nationally, Alabama with the top signing day class, the third time in 6 years that they have had the number 1 class. Nick Saban clinched that. It depends on what website you look at as far as the total number of points and things like that, whether you want to go by 247 or go by On3. But according to 247, that class features a record 9 5-stars. 9 5 stars. You got Keon Keeley, edgeman, offensive lineman, Caden Proctor. Those two guys, top 5 prospects. Then you also have top 10 prospect in safety, Caleb Downs. They end up signing about a tenth of the top 100 players in the country overall.
That's not bad.
No, not at all. I think by 247 standards, it was 11 of the top 100. So by themselves, 9 5-stars and 1/10 of the top 100 players in the country. That is insane. Also, according to 247, the third all-time highest-ranked class. Obviously, last year A&M had that class that's already like halfway dissolved.
Empty,
So that one's, there was a big celebration last year, and now that class is not even is a shell of itself, really. And then Alabama in 2021. So I don't know if here lately there's been some new numbers being used, but records being broken. And maybe that's NIL, but Alabama's there regardless. They're there before NIL. They're there after NIL. And they are the third highest-ranked class of all time. So just could go on and on with Alabama's recruiting success, but there you have it.
All right, so the top 5, this is with On3's consensus. This includes them, 247, rivals, whoever, and I kind of like it this way. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, LSU. Oklahoma 7th, Notre Dame 9th. Let's see, Clemson was 10th. Let's go down to A&M 15th. So they did make a move at the end, 15th. TCU, 18th. Florida State, Paul, 20th. I thought they were higher than that.
They're
20th.
They're but you got to combine that with their portal class.
No, the portal class is fantastic.
If you started moving those two things together, then I think their rankings kind of change a little bit, but yeah.
Texas Tech, 25th. Matt Rule, Nebraska, 28th. Which I think probably dug them out of the hole. Dion in Colorado, 32nd, and he did sign McLean, right? Correct, the highly ranked defensive back. And then Baylor at 33. Let me see if I can find Kansas State, 37. That's the top 40. Iowa State, 44th.
Just went past UCF, but
went right past. Hold on. I got to get used to that. UCF, 39th. And Gus Malzahn, of course, joined us on Tuesday's show. All right, when we come back, Ross Tucker, the Ross Tucker podcast on the Super Bowl, on the NFL, on the Cowboys, and Mike McCarthy, and a new offensive line coach and his thoughts, and also a unique and special Valentine's gift. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco, and another month has started. And so look, and we'll be listening and also be able to pass along to you some of the new incentives and also the dealer discounts for you. So you have that available. You have what the President's Day sale that's there as well. And also on top of that, Ram trucks, and they have an incredible selection of Ram trucks. And one of the values of Alan Samuels is not just the deep inventory, but also they have multiple dealerships. So if, in fact, you're looking for something, but it's not in Waco, they can get it to Waco very, very quickly. So that's what you have at Alan Samuels. Ted Teague, the general manager, they're heavily involved in a lot of greatness when it comes to charitable events and more. And then, of course, their dealership with AJ and a great group of sales reps, and or you could call them client managers as they do when it comes to their titles. Alan Samuels, a new month, President's Day right now. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out. End the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. And they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch. State-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Ross Tucker, former NFL lineman, the Ross Tucker podcast with us, and also something very unique for Valentine's Day for you and an idea for your loved one. We'll have that. Ross joins us on 365 Sports, and we signed this up for today because we knew that Tom Brady was going to retire again. Ross, obviously, this time it appears to be incredibly official. Your thoughts about it just again with Tom Brady?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of surprised. You know, it seemed like there was a lot of momentum towards him playing again. You know, there was a lot of talk that he wanted to play again, that he was going to play again. So it's really interesting because last year everybody said he was going to retire. You know, and I'm talking about like private conversations that I have with people that kind of know him or know his agent behind the scenes. And last year, it certainly felt like he was going to retire, and then he did, and then he came back. And then this year, it was the opposite. You know, I mean, this year it was a lot of talk that he wanted to keep playing, and a lot of talk about the Raiders. And now all of a sudden he retires. And, man, after what happened last year and just knowing him, I'd be really, really surprised if he came back this time.
Ross, I saw your tweet. It was maybe the first thing I saw after I watched the actual video about how this guarantees that Aaron Rodgers won't retire and for the other year because he wouldn't want to share the spotlight with Tom Brady at the Hall of Fame ceremony. And I got to tell you, I would be totally on Aaron Rodgers' side in that, because if you're Aaron Rodgers and in there with Tom Brady, it'd be like, you were amazing, Aaron, but I mean, he's got 6 more Super Bowls than you.
Well, here's the thing. There would even be a possibility when you think about J.J. Watt and Brady. I think there'd be some possibility that Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I don't know. He probably still would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he certainly would be second fiddle. I mean, there's no question that he wouldn't be second fiddle. And I just don't think he wants that. Imagine his whole career, he's played second fiddle and or been in the shadow of Tom Brady. I think the last thing he wants to have happen is to have his Hall of Fame moment once again be a situation where he's way overshadowed by Tom Brady. But by the way, he was never going to retire anyway. I mean, he's guaranteed $60 million. That would go against any human instinct anybody would ever have. All he needs to do is work from late July until the first week of January, and he gets $60 million. Like, I don't care how rich you are, bro, you're not turning that down.
Yeah, you can be as spiritual and peaceful as you want to be, but you're still not turning down $60 million. I'm with you on that one. Ross, you not to pull everything off your Twitter feed, but you did ask a great question as well in regards to the ramifications of Brady's retirement. We learned from Dana White at one point months ago that the Las Vegas Raiders were at one point in time going to be a landing spot for him and Gronk, and they were going to get the band back together in Vegas, and that obviously didn't work out. He ends up in Tampa. But then this time around, thoughts that the Tampa time is running to a close. Derek Carr's not going to be in Vegas. Maybe the Raiders go that route at this point, but that's obviously not going to happen. So who will be the Raiders quarterback next year?
Yeah, I think there's some possibility of Aaron Rodgers, but that would surprise me because Josh McDaniels does not seem to me to be the type of coach that, number one, wants to pay a guy $60 million and take up that much cap space. But number two, I don't think McDaniels wants a quarterback that could kind of question him. I mean, I think he wants a quarterback that's going to do what he tells him to do, and I don't think that's Aaron Rodgers. So I actually think that it's probably going to be Baker Mayfield for the Raiders, believe it or not. McDaniels loved him coming out of college, and he won't be that expensive. And I think McDaniels thinks he can get him to play at a really high level.
Ross, the Cowboys have made some decisions with their staff. Obviously, Kellen Moore out. It took 10 seconds, and the Chargers are right back in the middle of that. They want him. They got him. Cowboys have changed offensive line coaches. Mike Solari, who's been around a long time, is now the offensive line coach. Jerry Jones today saying McCarthy will call the plays because that's what Jerry says. Your thoughts about what's going on in Dallas?
Yeah, I think it's a disaster. I really do. I am so surprised that so many people in Dallas seem to be down on Kellen Moore. I mean, you guys have to tell me. You're there in Waco, but I believe after Dak came back, first of all, they won every game with Cooper Rush except the game at Philadelphia, who's the most talented team in the league. And even that game, they were right there with Cooper Rush. Then Dak comes back from injury, and they led the NFL in scoring and touchdowns after Dak came back, even though Dak was throwing out interceptions left and right. And it's not like they got some loaded offense. CeeDee Lamb's a good receiver, not a top 5 receiver. Michael Gallup, the number 2 receiver, did nothing. Dalton Schultz is a really solid tight end, but he's not like a top 5 tight end. Pollard's explosive. Zeke's kind of done. O-line's pretty good. I mean, they scored 40 points against the Eagles. 40. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed by Kellen Moore this year. I know people are mad that they didn't score more points against the 49ers. Well, first of all, join the club. Niners defense is very good. Secondly, Dak threw 2 terrible interceptions. And the last time Mike McCarthy called plays in Green Bay, it was not good. I mean, it was not good at all. And he had Aaron Rodgers and good receivers. So I don't see how the Cowboys don't take a step back.
Oh, Ross, I completely agree with you. I mean, even if their record is close to or similar, I mean, how is it going to be better? Like, how can you get better statistically than what they were doing outside of Dak needs a new voice in his ear to get over some of these interceptions? But, you know, they also need to stop doing the thing where they only half address certain issues on the roster. I mean, that's been the bigger thing with the Cowboys is they get almost everything right, but they're afraid to go that extra mile when they feel like they're close. Like they're so afraid of the salary cap that, they're going to re-sign Michael Gallup and trade Amari Cooper for below market value just because of that. And you've got teams like the Rams that, look, they know that they're close and they're going for it, right? So I think that's the biggest difference with the Cowboys. And then Mike McCarthy has to make decisions because they didn't finish out, and it's the coordinators and not really who's responsible.
Yep. And I think it's a really good point. You know, the Amari Cooper trade for the Cowboys was a disaster. Disaster. $20 million a year for Amari Cooper is actually reasonable compared to all these guys getting $25 million. I mean, the Eagles gave up a lot for the right to pay A.J. Brown $25 million. The Raiders gave up a ton for the right to pay Devontae Adams more than $25 million. Same with Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins. All the Cowboys had to do was just keep Amari Cooper. Just keep him for the year. They are one of the worst teams in the NFL at managing the cap. There is no doubt.
Ross, what are your thoughts on the Broncos making the big swing and connecting with Sean Payton as their next head coach?
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me because they're just so heavily invested in Russell Wilson. I think before you give up on that, it makes sense to do whatever you can to maximize what he can do. Maximize whatever they can get out of him. That's exactly what they should do. And so I love the signing. I love the trade because whatever Russell Wilson's capable at this stage of his career, you got to feel like Sean Payton's going to be able to get it out of him. And that's exactly what he's going to try to do.
Ross, you have this very unique myfrontpagestory.com for Valentine's Day. There are some great, I've just went online and, of course, looked through them. We've discussed this with you before. The idea, and also let everyone understand what's available that might be different than it's Valentine's Day, I have to do this.
Well, February's already here. Valentine's Day will be here in less than 2 weeks. Most of you haven't gotten anything for your wives or even thought about it yet, or your significant other, whoever that is. You guys will appreciate this because of your background. To be able to have a professional writer write a story that's all about your significant other and how special they are, they don't even know that's a thing. You know, your wife or whoever, they'll think it's like you went out of your way to come up with this genius idea to have this. Like, they don't even know that you're using a company to do it. Go to myfrontpagestory.com to be able to say, hey, honey, I want to do something special for you this year. So I had a story written about you. It just sounds awesome. And then when she sees it, beautiful, looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper, framed pictures of her and you, or her and you and the kids. It's incredibly emotional. When she reads the quotes from you and the kids, I can almost guarantee she will cry. She'll cry, you'll win, and then she'll have it hanging up in the house forever. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's myfrontpagestory.com. Trust me, fellas, myfrontpagestory.com.
Well, and the one that you have that we sent, that Ivan sent to us, is Front Page Family, Everyone's Oma. And it's kind of a picture, what looks like a grandmother with the grandchild in her lap, and then there's a story. Looks like it's actually whatever newspaper, whatever city you're in, it's set up exactly that way, and it's in a frame, which is even better.
It's awesome, and I actually know that woman, and that's her great-grandchild.
Okay.
And the people that bought that story, they bought that story for her when she left her home to go into a senior care facility. Because, you know, she was pretty upset about that, right? She didn't want to have to leave her house. And she read that story every day until she passed because it had quotes from all four of her children, several of her grandchildren. And, you know, if you're someone that's in your 80s or 90s and you're in a room by yourself, to be able to look at that, read that, see how much everybody loves you every single day, honestly, man, it's priceless. Like, this is a passion project for me. I love it. It's myfrontpagestory.com.
I know you've got to go. Analyst for Westwood One, CBS, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Your quick thoughts. Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl 57.
You know, I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I really do. I'm torn on it. You know, on the one hand, the Eagles have the best O-line in the NFL by a lot, the best D-line in the NFL probably. I mean, they got the best corners they've ever had, the best receivers they've ever had, an MVP candidate quarterback. I mean, they're loaded. They're absolutely loaded. You know, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, even though they never wanted me as a player. It's the best Eagles team I've ever seen. The best Eagles team I've ever seen in my life. That doesn't mean they'll win it, because I think it'll be a close game. So if it's a close game, man, I just feel like we've seen Mahomes get it done in those situations so many times. You know, it's like Hurts hasn't really had to do that very often. Hurts hasn't really been in that many close games. That's the one place where I kind of give a little bit of an edge to the Chiefs. A lot of it. I mean, Mahomes is the best player on the planet, and the Chiefs have him. So if it's a close game, I have a lot of faith in his ability to make the critical plays late for the Chiefs to get it done.
Ross, thanks for your time. Ross Tucker, the Ross Tucker Podcast. Again, my front page gift, myfrontpagestorygift.com. You can go to that and find what is the unique Valentine's gift. That's Ross Tucker with us on 365 Sports. Right before we got on with Ross, and we appreciate his time, Lorenzo Hayes. Remember, Katie Rader, $20. Eric Nefrin, $19.99. We had a retired stockbroker and also Ryan Nelson with Super Chats. Lorenzo Hayes with $100 Super Chat for this show and for 365 Sports. And for that, whether it's $1 or it's $100, anything in between, we appreciate you. That was staggering to see that. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, any question that we need to answer?
No, he just $100. Yeah.
Well, that's the best kind. Not even asking, but no, I'm just kidding.
There's no pressure on that one.
Exactly.
I asked
thank you, Lorenzo. Appreciate that.
I asked Eric Nefrin, is it Nephron or is it Nefrin? He goes, the second one. I'm a nephrologist, a kidney doctor, not the surgical kind. Thanks for asking. That's awesome. Thank you very much for what you do. As well. All right, now, when we come back, we'll get back into the story about the NIL and the NCAA acting as if, or saying, saying that maybe they're closing in on some of these NIL violations. How can they do that? What's different now than anything else in the past? We'll get to that and much more. 365 Sports with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. We'll back in 1 minute.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. I've counted on them. Didn't buy my car from them originally, but I've counted on them a couple of different times in the past year when I've had a couple of different accidents, needed some repairs. They were the people that I went to and the people that I counted on, and if you check out my vehicle, you wouldn't be able to tell that I had gone through anything like that. They did a great job in making my car look like brand new, and the time that they handled it. Just the customer service was off the charts, and that's one of the benefits of taking your car over, being a customer of Richard Carr Motors. But right now, they're looking not only to continue to treat you with that great customer service if you do need to take your car in for some repairs, get all fixed up, but they're also looking to sell some cars, of course, as well. That is their business, and you might be looking right now for a brand new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle, and if that is the case, well, they are right up your alley with over 150 vehicles on the lot and ready to drive home today. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now. You can talk to them about the special financing on 2023 GMC Sierras. They also have special financing on GMC Terrain SUVs and the entire lineup of Buick SUVs in stock. And specifically with the Sierra, a lot of bells and whistles. I know for me, I upgraded from having like an early 2000s model to more of a 2020s model, and it's just blew me away. All of the different things that come with the upgrade in a vehicle. But when you're looking at the GMC Sierra, look no further than the bells and whistles that include best-in-class towing, unsurpassed strength, premium comfort, and also some special financing over at Richard Carr, including no payments for 90 days. Contact them to get more information. If you're not looking to buy new, also plenty of pre-owned cars and trucks on the lot as well. Over 80 right now, many of them under $20,000. Affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles, both new and pre-owned, ready to drive today. So go check out the dealership in business for 20-plus years in Central Texas, a dealership that's built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to the website, richardcarr.com today. Call them now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Provo Cougar fan, after we had Ross Tucker on that unique Valentine's Day gift. Gifts to avoid on Valentine's Day: a vacuum, an iron, a Swifter, and, of course, a Utah sweatshirt, ball cap, and mug. And Paula goes, add an electric can opener, crock pot, and my personal favorite, a frying pan.
Yeah, that pretty much checks all the boxes if you're trying to stay happy inside the home, for sure. Yeah, and that's one thing I've learned very quickly. There is absolutely zero love lost with BYU and Utah. Just none whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I learned that very, very quickly as BYU started to make their journey into the Big 12. And no, it was a big day for them yesterday. And we'll see Utah here in just a few months as they roll into town for the first half of a home and away. And I think that'll be a super exciting non-conference game. I think that's going to be built up really nicely and could be a really big game by the time it rolls around.
So Heather Dinich, College Football Heather on Twitter, had this earlier. Big 12 Commissioner Kevin Warren, who's still there. Conference leadership team are on the West Coast meeting with both UCLA and USC over the next 3 days, the conference stated. Remember, the Pac-12 just wrapped up their meetings, and now the Big Ten commissioner and group are in L.A. And there's the press release from the Big Ten discussing official statement, Big Ten conference integration meetings. Tony Altomar, who is incredible with graphics, then put this one up, attached all the different names of those involved with this. Today is exciting for our USC Trojan family and UCLA Bruin buddies and Big Ten friends. And then there's the graphic of everyone congregating on the campus. I guess
that's USC.
Is that the Rose Bowl in the background? But there's all the various members, mascots, and as always, Tony was able to just kind of make that happen faster than possible. Faster than possible. Did anyone see? And this guy, I don't know how you say his last name, but it's Kyle. He's a huge UT fan. He's at times as arrogant as you could be and also funny as hell. And he's always digging at UT against what A&M and all that stuff. But he yesterday, there was UCF had a picture of a really nice card and an invitation. It led to them unveiling their schedule. He then took that picture, and I thought I had sent a picture. I don't have it, but took a picture and he said, in Austin, we received this or whatever. Meanwhile, in Austin, and it was a ratty envelope, all chewed up like it'd been almost like Tom Hanks' movie.
Castaway.
Like it looked like Castaway.
Turner and Hooch.
And I mean, just all ratted up. And underneath of it, you could see the card partially at the top, and it was, well, you could see all but blank you. It was hilarious. That, I wish, is what we see more of, but I thought that was great. The invitation from UCF that was nice and pristine, like it's a special event, and then what UT said they received, or at least what Kyle said.
I mean, not accurate because they did not get that whatsoever in their schedule. But, yeah, I can see where maybe that was a thought going into it. But I think that they made out as well as anybody with yesterday's schedule release. There was not a middle finger in their direction. Oklahoma could argue otherwise.
It was the edible arrangement.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like he was the complete opposite of whatever he was trying to portray. I mean, I know that was, again, the thought process going in, but that was not at all how it played out. Even the road trip to Houston, I've already, seen plenty of Texas fans who are like, oh, that'll be a home game for us. And, yeah, I mean, probably will, but better chance that there's going to be a better Cougars crowd, at home and limited seating than had you opened up NRG and for sure you're going to have like 60,000 Texas fans swarming on H-Town. So that was going to be the case regardless. I suppose if you're going to be outnumbered, and we'll see when it rolls around, but you'd rather be outnumbered by, 10,000 than by 30,000, like if you were to go play in the NFL stadium and what that would have ended up looking like. But, yeah, I think, all jokes aside, Oklahoma could feel like they got the much tougher schedule. And I think if you're Texas and you had any fear of there actually being some sort of, payback or retribution or anything for your decision, that was not in that schedule that was released yesterday. I think that's very manageable for them. I think they're the favorite going into this year. And I think it sets up really well for them to be that favorite and to play that favorite. But, obviously got to go win the games, and we've been here, done that with them before. But this does feel like year 3. So many players are coming back on offense in particular that they're really going to be rich with talent and experience and some playmakers. So they'll be a fun team to watch.
All right, now, Paul, you sent this out. The doors are opening for the NCAA to close in on NIL violations. Dr. Susan Elza, who's now the chief of staff for Mack Rhoades in Nebraska football, former longtime part of the UIL and ran it for many years. She'll join us at 5 on her newest chapter in her career. So the NCAA, how are they going to do this? How are they going to crack down on NIL violations?
One of the new things, other than hiring different people to kind of run the investigations arm, which they have, and have new enforcement people, which they do, they are going to now employ a strategy that is essentially, if there is hearsay or conjecture, they will put it on the accused school of that hearsay conjecture to prove that it's not true. For example, the rule is that you're not supposed to do anything with anybody until they're on campus, right? It can't be used as a recruiting inducement, which we know that's been completely flaunted and no one cared about it. So if you have a Jaden Rashada situation where he clearly negotiated with these people before he ever got to campus, then now they can say, look, here's the conjecture, here's the, what is out there that, this collective promised Jaden Rashada $13 million before he ever got on campus. Well, now it's on Florida to prove that didn't happen that way. Now, the penalties would be fines for Florida. No players are going to get in trouble. There's not as much teeth to the penalties. But the problem with saying, well, we heard this conjecture, now you have to prove it's not true, is that if you can't prove that it is, I can't necessarily prove that it's not. And for the example I'll give you is UFOs, right? I cannot, if I don't believe in UFOs, I don't. They're not UFOs. Well, I can't prove that there's not because, there's no way for me to go into space and find that there's not UFOs. There's also no way for you to prove that there are UFOs because you don't have one that's crashed in your yard. So again, you're kind of at this paradox of prove that it's wrong. Well, these are just going to hang out there. So eventually, where's the NCAA going to wind up? When they start accusing people and can't prove things, back in court.
Yeah, and that's why that with Dr. Livingstone and the Transformation Committee and the newest president and all that, that's why they're trying to get Congress involved, which we know is a Hail Mary, but at least they're going to try to see if that can happen.
They're basically just going to roll with circumstantial evidence if it's there. This is not going to be like the NCAA has to prove it. Florida and Jaden Rashada, in that case, that's or Miami or whoever you want to throw under there that might be under the auspices of the NCAA. They're not going to have to sit there and prove that this occurred. What they're going to make happen is the school has to prove that it did not occur, right? It's not that they have to prove that it did. It's that you have to prove that it didn't. And that's not what it has been. That's been the complete opposite. The NCAA has been toothless and hasn't been able to prove because there's been uncooperative witnesses. I mean, what school's trying to rat themselves out, right? What coach is trying to get themselves in trouble? What players trying to lose eligibility? So no one cooperates, and everybody learned oh, wow, if you don't cooperate, probably nothing happens for the most part. Then again, there are those that did cooperate. And, the Baylor case was very high profile, and Baylor cooperated, and in the end, that didn't turn out to be at all what people thought it was going to be. That's largely because everybody was too stupid in their opinions. I'm sorry, but they thought that there was some level of legislation that the NCAA had. They never really had.
From day one.
Yep. Everybody was wrong about that. Tried to scream it, but no, whatever. That's a whole other thing. And so that ended up exactly how it was destined to because of the rules. But now, if it were to happen in this case, I think it would be a lot tougher because now instead of them saying oh, well, we have to prove that you did this, even if you don't cooperate or not, now they can just say, prove that you did not do this. And whether you want to cooperate, you have really no choice. You're going to have to cooperate, basically, is what they're trying to in so many ways accomplish. So, yeah, it's basically just reversing the onus and making it less about them having to solve it and prove it and have fingerprints or whatever DNA evidence and everything that you're solving a crime or something. Now they're gonna be like, you committed the murder, prove that you did not commit the murder to us.
Yeah.
We're not going to prove that you did. You're going to prove to us that you didn't. And so we'll see how that works out. But, yeah, legislation seems like it will be involved because I don't think schools are going to stand for that. But I don't know all the logistics into, like, what's enforceable and what's not.
Well, I got a quote from that. John Duncan, the Vice President of Enforcement, Craig. We've now got legislative authority to bring that allegation and put that burden on the institution to prove that it's not a violation. What legislative authority is he talking about?
Well, I mean, they've changed some of the rules, but again, at the end of it, like, you are going to wind up in a legal argument because, like I said before, and I think Eric said this, it's the null hypothesis in that if you can't prove something happened, that doesn't mean that I can't prove that it didn't. You know, like, there might not be. Again, what if there's no paper trail? What if these accusations are completely clandestine? There's not a paper trail. There's not text messages. Now, legislative authority might mean that they might have some sort of subpoena power now. But again, to get my cell phone from me, if I'm the collective or I'm the recruit in this, if you want to get my cell phone from me and those cell phone records, we are going to court. That's not something I'm just going to give over to you. And so that is where they're going to wind up. And to this point, that's not worked out well for them. So outside of any kind of paper trail, this stuff can be really hard to prove because it is just conjecture.
They have actually looked into some of the NIL allegations. Some have been closed without penalties. Others remain active. There was this also, and this is the case as well, is that you might get somebody that is willing to say something and then all of a sudden they disappear, whether it's a parent or whether it's a runner or whether it's a student athlete or whatever, that's even the case in crime situation. Yeah.
They can't do anything to most of those people anyways.
No.
I mean, the player, the school, but the agents, they're not going to have the authority to sit there and go, penalize a bag man. Do those even exist anymore? I mean, is there a need for them anymore? A bag man.
I think what no one's told me this, but I kind of talk about as their runners.
Yeah.
Is they're the runners
but they can't be penalized. I mean, unless they're employed by the school, which they're not, because they're a part of a collective, which has nothing to do, nothing to do with the school. We know that's a lie. We know that there's a lot working in conjunction with collectives and the universities they represent. But, we have this fallacy that, somehow, no, they're operating completely separately. They have no, no, and there's a level of cooperation that has to go on. But, when it comes to these violations, I mean, there's not anything really the NCAA can do to a collective. But they can say, okay, Ohio State, here's 5 years probation or what have you. And so the schools and the player potentially will be the ones on the hook. But, again, to what degree they're able to actually enforce something and not have it turn into a lawsuit that drags out through the years and eventually it leads to talk about, are you an employee or, that kind of thing. I don't think any of that part is resolved, but the NCAA is trying to show that they have some teeth again is what they're trying to do. They bumped up enforcement staff. They've got this legislation that allows them to kind of ease the parameters of what they were able to do previously. So they'll be able to act in a more aggressive way, and it sounds like they plan to. But, I still don't know of what actually can they enforce and actually make happen ultimately. That's the big question for me.
At least they can hover. And, again, that doesn't mean people are going to stop because in the end they know you can't do anything about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you have the little Uncrustables, right, Smokey?
I had one. I ate one. Yes.
Okay, you ate it. But, say someone in this room ate it and took it. And the only evidence that you had of that was the wrapper. But you can't subpoena our fingerprints. You can't, take any kind of swab to see if there's peanut butter and jelly residue in my mouth.
Throw all of you to the ground.
Yeah, but, all these things. So all you would have is somebody here ate an Uncrustable.
Okay. Well, they're the only ones that were in the room.
But again,
no, I'll figure it out.
And then again, I can't also prove that I didn't or did. So.
By the way, Texas now leads the Big 12 men's basketball standings at 7-2 because Kansas beat Kansas State last night. TCU beat West Virginia. So after the early part of the week, they are 7-2, and everyone else 6-3 or behind them at that point. All right, when we come back, she was, for the longest time, the director of athletics of the UIL that ran and governed high school athletics for public schools in Texas. She has been recently named the chief of staff at Nebraska for Mack Rhoades' football program. Today being National Signing Day, thought it'd be a good time to have her reflect back on her career and also what really is her role. That's next. Dr. Susan Elza, former Midway. She's a Midway alum. She's next on 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. All right, Waco Custom Marketplace, the specials this week, they were closed yesterday, but the specials for the rest of the weekend through Saturday, select New York strip steak at $5.99 a pound, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. A pound of frozen chili ground beef at $3.59 a pound. Bacon ends in pieces for $2.75 a pound, and chicken thighs are $1.50 a pound. Ring bologna, $4.50 a pound, and do a sausage if you want to put together a great batch of gumbo or even, well, possibly even jambalaya at $3.75 a pound. Plus, choice brisket, $3.50 a pound, and pepper jack cheese at $3.75 a pound. These are the specials this week at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and a full-service bakery, and all of what you need in between with the aisles of what grocery items you might need. It's Waco Custom Marketplace. Looking forward to what you want for Super Bowl Sunday? That's a place to go and call to get an order put in at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The President's Day sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the great selection of new cars, trucks, and SUVs and get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler sedans, and minivans, or a sporty Dodge. Get more for less, guaranteed. More value, more selection, more service, and more trade-in allowance. And of course, if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams and order it today. It's the President's Day sales event happening right now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist's office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Hope you've enjoyed the first couple of hours of what we do here on 365 Sports. And an hour to go, bottom of the hour. Cowboys with some coaching staff changes and decisions. We'll hear it from John Machota, theathletic.com, and Paul's Top 5 in 50 minutes. We're now joined by Dr. Susan Elza, Chief of Staff for Matt Rhule in Nebraska football, former Director of Athletics of the UIL for years, ran what was the mothership of high school sports and athletics and events in Texas. So, hey, Midway girl, here we are in Waco, right here in Central Texas, having you on National Signing Day and so much more. What have the last few days been like for you since you made the announcement you were leaving for Lincoln?
Well, first of all, Midway High forever. I cannot not say that. That's part of our school song there. But it's been a total frenzy, and one that I'm so glad to be a part of. It's so bittersweet to leave that role that I was in. I love, our coaches and our athletes across the state, and but to have that opportunity to go work for Coach Rhule and help build the program at Nebraska, it was just a chance of a lifetime, and so just a ton of emotions are swirling around and a lot of moving parts right now, but it's been very exciting.
What is job one for you as you get there now?
Well, to maybe quit drinking out of a fire hose, that would be helpful. I mean, that's the way I keep telling myself. I think, you guys are very familiar with college football, and I felt like I was. I mean, obviously I have a lot of friends and colleagues that coach at the college level, but man, when you get behind the scenes, it's an Amber Alert going off. When you get behind the scenes, it's a machine in there. And I don't know that I completely understood all the moving parts to it. So, I think what Coach Rhule has charged me with is administratively trying to bring, all the different departments that operate under football together, to bring the unity that we need to make the administrative decisions that I can assist him with, so he can coach and, focus on, coaching football and winning games. So it's been fun so far.
Dr. Elza, it wasn't that long ago, at least it feels that way, when there was this guy from the Northeast named Matt Rhule that we were all scrambling and Googling, trying to figure out who he was, and he's the next Baylor head coach and all of that. And as you probably are well aware, Texas ties or lack thereof was a huge thing with a guy from outside the state. But obviously Sean Bell and Joey McGuire and David Wetzel answered the call there. How did you get to know Coach Rhule? And obviously he ingratiated himself well to the THSCA and was all over the state, and obviously wants to make Texas a remaining focal point. So can you kind of tell us just how this started and obviously grew into a relationship where he felt like you were going to be impactful for this program?
Yeah, I mean, I think, even, in the prior staff before Coach Rhule, I mean, I'd stop by and go to practices. I felt like that was part of my role as the athletic director of the state to build relationships with those college programs and, because they were going to be ultimately receiving our athletes, and we always want our programs at UIL to be in the best position possible. So, stopping by practice was pretty frequent for me, and it was even, a little bit more so, once Joey and Wetzel and Sean got there, and, because it just, Matt builds a family atmosphere. So I got to know him, just really very informal that way. I mean, he's a very quick judge of people in a good way. I mean, he recognizes your qualities in a hurry, and I'd always stayed, in touch with him even when he left and went on to Carolina and supported him. And, one thing that I've got to brag on with him is, how well he builds relationships with people. And that's not always an easy task. And, he, in my opinion, he did a great job of building relationships with the Texas high school football coaches, and more importantly with Texas High School Coaches Association. And I just think we had a lot of things in common, and I think Joey probably helped the cause, if I'm being real honest. Joey and I have known each other since we were, I call it knee high to a grasshopper, because we grew up in the profession together up in DFW. My 12 of my years in the career were spent at Allen ISD, and I'll never forget when he gave us one of our, back when Todd Graham was there, he gave us a loss. So Joey, I think that, I didn't ask Joey to, but he always advocated for me. And so when this opportunity came, Matt thought I was a natural fit, and I'm glad he did, because I think I am. And, I knew he was an incredible leader, but when you get to work with him firsthand and his staff, all the staff that he has with him and the former players, it is truly a family atmosphere, and you're all, commonly working for a goal.
Dr. Elza, what's more, I'm trying to think of the word, the UIL is a massive organization. We're talking about, 12 to 1,400 schools, all of the various athletics, sports, the events, et cetera. Not all of them are even athletics, but events and competitions. What is more of an undertaking, that or what you said, you've kind of been blown away behind the scenes of college athletics?
They're equally challenging. Hey, right now, guys, y'all know this. We're undefeated, so everybody in the state of Nebraska loves that.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Y'all know,
Yep.
But what's beautiful about Nebraska, and this is one thing that y'all hear you hear in the high school setting them talk about a one school town. It's a one college state, and it doesn't have an NFL team, and so there's I'm kind of digressing a little bit from the question, but that's the beauty of it. But you do feel, even for me, I'm thinking, I'm going to come in. I'm not an on-the-field coach. They're not even going to notice if I come in the door. And that has been just exactly the opposite. And I think that, this is a funny fact for y'all that I got the other day. And it's ironic that you asked this question, but, we have over 1 million participants. I think it was right about 1.5, on our participation numbers. That's high school alone in our high school sports in UIL. And so I was sharing that fact with someone there at Nebraska, and they go, do you realize our state population isn't it's just over 1 million. And so I don't know if you can compare and contrast the two very well, because again, they're both very dynamic and a lot of moving parts and a lot of things changing just very suddenly. That's just the best way to describe it. But I can tell you that the UIL job definitely equipped me for the Nebraska chief of staff job, and I'm blessed for that time because of that.
Well, it's kind of the same thing, but like different ways, right? Where at the UIL, you've got all these schools that want to be best represented their way and come at you with different things. In Nebraska, it's all people who want things. It's just the same thing, and it's a lot of them that care a lot.
It is. And they have very high expectations, but they're very welcoming. It really has, people, we always claim here in Texas that, we've got all this Southern hospitality and the other states don't have that. But it may be a Midwestern hospitality, but I've met and come across some of the nicest people. And, even when you just go eat at a restaurant there in Lincoln and you're wearing the N, they're so proud to represent that. So, it's just, like I said, they're different. They complement each other. But it's for me, one of the things that was so appealing about it was that it's a one college state. And I think you can build that way. And again, their expectations are high, and they should be. I think a lot of people don't understand the resources and the things that are offered to the athletes there, especially the football program. And I think we're sitting on a very successful football program that is going to show its success on the field in the 23 season.
Doctor, obviously, you're higher, and I'm sure Matt Rhoades would have had interest even regardless of your Texas ties just because of the job that you do if you had been like Massachusetts or something like that. But obviously having Texas ties comes with the talent bed, and he knows full well, having been here and recruited here, of the talent level in Texas. What's kind of Nebraska's not mission statement per se, but what's kind of the thought process right now of how important the Lone Star State is to, the mission moving forward in Lincoln, Nebraska?
when we sit together as a staff and we talk, and I've had to miss some of these meetings because I've been back and forth, but that one of my very first ones that I sat in, Bob Wager was in there and Garrett McGuire, and that's fun, to be on staff with other people that, have lived in Texas. And of course, some of the guys that are, with Matt from the Baylor staff, I mean, Coach Satterfield and Ed Foley and Evan Cooper. I mean, I'm probably missing some of them, but you guys know them and you love them. And they know how big Texas is and how great our high school football is. So, the emphasis is, we have certain states that we pluck out and we have an emphasis on it. And then we have some states that we know, there's some athletes there that we want. And I mean, it's so meticulous, the process that they have in scouting and recruiting. And the Texas, it's just a proud feeling to say how much they target it. And, he really wants to have that presence, just even though we're in Nebraska. And I'm very happy and excited about that because on Saturday he's sending me to a Texas High School Coaches Association meeting in Houston to talk about Nebraska football. And I think a lot of people wouldn't think, you're going to use your chief of staff that way, but that's not how it works for Coach Rule. He wants every one of us to contribute and give back to the program. And if that's the way that I can do it, then I'm more than happy to do it because I know, what a gold mine we have here in Texas.
When Nebraska decided to leave for a lot of money and the Big Ten, and then, of course, they have struggled for many years. They just have been a shell of themselves, and that's what he's trying to recreate along with you and others. But they did get away from Texas, and one of the thoughts was the Big 12, at least they could guarantee they would be playing games wherever it might be in the state of Texas. There seems to be, as you mentioned, a recommitment. It doesn't mean because you're not a part of a conference that plays here, you can't recruit here. Is that kind of – because 5-6 players, I think, on the current class that just signed are from all throughout the state of Texas.
Yeah, they are. And, it's funny because, I think we all remember, and everybody remembers it in a different way, just the glory days of Nebraska and how many Texas players were on that roster. And how, it just declined steadily, that it wasn't their focus, it wasn't their emphasis. And y'all know how that goes. When you change head coaches, I mean, they're going to identify their talent pool where they identified. And for some reason, Texas fell out of that equation. I don't understand it. I know y'all probably don't because y'all know how talented our state is. And you got to think that had something to do with the decline. And, he's another emphasis that he's made, just I think it's important to say this, is they, a lot of the Nebraska kids, and all the school communities there were not going to Nebraska University of Nebraska, excuse me. And so it's just been interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, how we're walking through it. But when it comes to the Texas emphasis, I mean, it's unbelievable that they had moved away from it. This is my personal opinion. And there's no doubt that we're going to benefit from that programmatically over the next, several years.
Yeah, it's funny to think that somebody would kind of move away from Texas or Florida or wherever. Look, you can go fish in anybody's pond, but if I want a trophy fish, I've got to go to certain spots, right?
Right. That's a great.
Oh yeah, agree. It's interesting. I just don't, you get inside there, and I mean, I told Coach Rule, when I very first visited with him, I was trying to do some research, make sure I was, completely knowledgeable to have that conversation with him and maybe just give, my thoughts on it. And, but once you get internal to the resources that the University of Nebraska pours into all of their athletic programs is just incredible. I mean, not just the facilities, because those are, we're going to be moving into a new football facility in June that will be the best in college football. And, and that counts, right? Those things count, but it's all the other moving parts, the support pieces behind it. That puts that athlete in a position to be successful, and especially with our football players. And I feel it feels like an untapped resource when you're kind of just observing what happened maybe previously. And I don't mean to be judgmental because that's not what I'm being, but that's honestly what it feels like. And that the ceiling is way higher than what they were performing at. So it's going to be a really exciting season here in 2023, and I think we're all ready for it to start, but we're not ready for it to start because we've got to get these kids, ready to go, get their minds right, all that good stuff.
Charles Brydup, Jamie Harrison, among many others that have been a part of the upper echelon and leadership in the UIL Bill Farney from back in the day as well. And now your name is a part of that as well, as part of the legacy of that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I don't know that I look at myself in that class that you just called out, but I can say that, I just was glad to be a part of it. My number one goal in my career, when I started way back in 1993 at Lakeview Centennial as a head softball coach and a PE teacher, I realized really quickly I wanted to be a part of that organization. And I hoped and dreamed that I could be the athletic director, and that I was able to follow that dream into a reality. And when you look across the landscape of our sports in Texas, all of them, I'm just so proud of the contributions that, I was able to make collectively with a team full of really strong leaders. And it'll be a moment in my life and in my career that I will never forget. And, I'll forever cherish it. Dr. Braddock is the one that called me by name and said, "Hey, would you like to be our AD?" And it was awesome while it lasted. And it was so hard to make this decision, but man, it's hard. I like to pick my leaders and that I work for, and it was a no-brainer to go to work for Matt Rhule.
Again, Dr. Elza, we appreciate it. Went to Midway alum, as you said, in part of the school's song, and then led a massive organization, the UIL, and now you go and try to help rejuvenate. That's fair, to rejuvenate a program that's been kind of dormant in many ways, and we've seen Matt Rhule turn things around at Temple and Baylor with leadership as well. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Are you still stuck in the ice or snow or whatever? It was kind of better today, but I know you kind of got stuck somewhere with the weather.
So my ceremonial last day, the whole reason that I was here, this week was to go to UIL for my last day in the office on January 31st. And guess what? I got iced in to my house, just like everybody in the greater Austin area. So I didn't even get to say a proper goodbye to all of our staff. I'm hoping to figure out how to make that work still, because the university's still closed tomorrow. So yes, I'm iced in just like everybody else. You would think we kind of swapped, weather with Nebraska, and maybe I'm just getting a taste of it before I leave Texas.
Thank you for your time, and hope to see you soon. Good luck with the convention coming up as well that you mentioned, or the speaking engagement you have. Tell Coach Rhule we said hello, and thanks for your time today.
I will. Thank you all for having me.
Dr. Susan Elza, Nebraska's Chief of Staff. I will share this with you. Sean Padden has been a part of Matt Rhule. I should have asked. I didn't. He's been a part of a lot of the stuff that Matt's done over the years. But those are two alphas. Yeah. And it's like Sean's the one who will be handling personnel. Dr. Elza, a lot of the other logistics. Mm-hmm. And I think that they have to it's they're opposite sides of the building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It was something you have to do that sometimes to get the talent. Sometimes not everyone has to be in the same room to work effectively.
But they will. They'll figure it out. Yeah. I think it's kind of funny that's kind of a nugget on them. So thanks to Dr. Susan Elza, again, the Chief of Staff, Nebraska football, and what she's trying to do. And it's a jump now. Not, again, what she did and was doing for the UIL is massive. But to get out of athletics in the state of Texas, to move to a place you've never really been, in Lincoln, to try to help rejuvenate that program, will be interesting to watch, and she is a rock star in the state of Texas. When we come back, more to come, including John Machota on the Cowboys with a couple of coaching staff decisions, one an addition. Tomorrow, we're going to do this. I saw the tweet about college football blue bloods, and this is from Andrew McCullough. He put up a list of absolutely blue bloods. He put up arguably blue bloods, and then potentially blue bloods. We're going to do that among us tomorrow. We'll just kind of tease that. Also, Garrett, do you have the picture of all the snakes? I had Lane Pittman, Grant Taft's daughter, send me this and attach my name to it and said, would you? What would it take for you to go walk in that room if below all of that, or if you could get to the bottom of that, there's a dream?
All right, first of all, the misspelled Tesla. Second of all, a Tesla to go reach into that right
no
there.
Way.
Absolutely not. Are you kidding me?
Especially not based on everything I've heard about him in the cold lately. So
I don't know. I don't even know if you throw a Bentley or whatever you want to talk about. I mean, you better throw something pretty serious at me. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's a lot of happy Tesla owners out there, but that's just not scratching my itch to go reach into a pit of rattlesnakes. Come on now. What are we talking about here?
Would you, if there was down below, you could pick up a piece of paper that the Florida State Seminoles were going to win the national championship?
I mean, what's a paper going to do?
No, it's guaranteed.
It's like a golden ticket.
If you, it's
like Willy Wonka.
You ever watch The Voice or whatever? No, America's Got Talent and that golden thing.
Yeah,
that would be you go underneath that, and it's a guarantee that Florida State. I bet Paxton would do it if the Horns would get back to the national championship.
We've had those rattlesnakes.
We need to get to. You better win it if you're going to do that, and still know.
No, get back to and win the national championship. That's what I meant.
We've had the rattlesnake guys on our shows before that come in for that rattlesnake roundup, and even the fact that they were kind of standing there and still with us, but one's hand goes like this. And he can't
one of them doesn't have one.
One of them's got a glass eye because a snake bit him in the eye. I mean, no, none of it's worth it. It's not worth it. And here's the thing: I would really love to have a really nice car all the time, but there comes a point where I get a Bentley's great, but I mean, I still have to drive it. So how does it minimize my effort for all that money? I don't know. I mean, other than the flash of it and the comfort, I guess if I do have a Bentley, I can probably afford to pay somebody to drive me places all the time. But even still, if I've got to drive the car, at a certain point, it's just an A to B machine.
Yeah, the answer to that is there's nothing underneath of that. Carrot, for you, anything for you?
I mean, I grew up around them, so I could probably do that.
Oh, look, he's from Oglesby, where the rattlesnake roundup is.
Yeah, I mean,
that's right.
I've dealt with them in the past.
What do you mean you've dealt with them?
Oh, I mean, my house was infested with them in Oglesby. The concrete underneath was slick, and we killed probably 4 or 5 of them
under the house.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be trying to climb up my front door, and I got plenty of pictures for you. So I'm not worried about a rattlesnake.
Oh my gosh.
So it wouldn't take much is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
I would
need a 20-bedroom on a beach with bills paid.
I need Lincoln Riley's house. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley's house.
Just the house. Yeah.
Now I have to reach down there and get it. I can't Indiana Jones my way out of this where I throw a torch in there and they kind of move. I mean, I use my? No, you've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was in there. He took the torch and he threw it.
Why does it always have to be snakes, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we're getting something from Elon, SpaceX is right down the road. But give me a rocket ship before you give me a car. I mean, yeah.
All right. TJ Scott, she mentioned Nebraska opening up a new football facility. It will be the best in the nation. The only facility I've ever seen is when they were giving Dion a tour of the Colorado facility. The arms race for athletic facilities, football or otherwise, is really just, it's massive. And they're in the middle of they're adding yet even more. And then somebody else will then come back, whoever it is, and do something differently. And
Texas Tech just announced their stuff a few months ago that they're going to have the biggest facility in the country by the start of next year, and that they started construction as soon as the last home game ended, and they're going to have the big project. You can go search the story and see the final pictures of it all. But I don't think that. I think that's important, but I don't think it's as much of a talking point as it once was. I feel like that used to be a big to-do that you talk about, is what facilities and all that. It's still a big deal. It still matters in recruiting and all those things, but I don't feel like that's on the immediate list of the, biggest things that sell recruits like it used to be once upon a time, because now there's NIL. Now you actually can just give them money. It's not here's this colored waterfall. Here's the barber shop that we have here,
FSU just announced theirs. And in the announcement, it was very pointed in that everything in this building is going to be something that our recruits people can use. Mm-hmm. So he was like, look, there's not going to be a waterfall or everything that we're putting money in is something they can use, which now is kind of the new thing, because if NIL is out there, then your facility needs to be functional to me, as opposed to I can't,
Isn't that
you
beautiful?
can't play in the waterfall or anything like that. So it's,
before NIL got to be passed, it got stupid, like the facilities, because they had nothing else to spend money on.
Yeah.
Like the under the table stuff was still going on, but now that you we can offer millions of dollars to a guy for 4 years of football, now you use that money elsewhere. Whereas before, if you're Nick Saban, it's like, we have everything. What do we do now? Oh, let's get a crimson-colored waterfall in the facility. Like, what else do we not have? Like, let's get a 100-yard swimming pool. I mean, it's like, what are we going to spend our money on? We have to spend it on something, and I feel like that's what facilities kind of turned into. So to have it to where it's actually, yes, functional, and it's stuff that you're going to get use out of, I think that – and look, you got use out of the barber chairs, having a barber shop in the facility. I'm sure that was a convenience. And there's a lot of conveniences, but yeah, it got to the point right before NIL popped where it was just getting silly. And the argument for not paying players just looked even dumber and dumber because the coaching salaries are going up. The facilities are getting just to the point of, like, it's just.
What did Jay Billis say last week?
I don't know. What did he say last week?
Last week he was talking about how sit there and schools are using and spending all this money on all what you guys are talking about, and yet they didn't want to share any of that with the student athlete.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's great for Nebraska and Texas Tech because they are obviously in need, and that will be big selling points. My whole thing is just, like some of the as Paul said, there'll be functional facilities, but there was a point in time there just a few years ago where that was going a different direction, and it was just getting kind of ridiculous. So I'm glad that that's sort of settled down. Facilities still matter, but as I started off with, it's not like one of the top 2 or 3 things necessarily that are luring a guy versus maybe how important they were just a few years ago. But they matter for sure. And, obviously we've talked about Baylor. They're indoor. Their new basketball arena. Like, that's always an interesting cycle. And, there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
The new football operations, the Fudge Center that's coming in. Retired stockbroker, is UH a top 5 or 10 team? No, they're a top 5 team. They may be the best team. Next year when they join the conference, it only makes what is the best conference even deeper and better because they will compete and can play against anybody else, Kansas, Baylor, Texas, whoever it might be, in college basketball and also in the Big 12.
They won't be playing Texas.
Well,
replace them,
they might not be, but they could play against any of them. It would be great. Kelvin Sampson has done a remarkable job. When we come back, Cowboys have a new offensive line coach. Jerry Jones saying
he's not new anything. Mike Solari.
Well, he's their new repeat coming back after 40 years ago. And also Mike McCarthy, as far as calling plays, Jerry Jones says yes. John Machota, theathletic.com, joins us next on 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco with all of everything that's been redone, the flooring, painting, new equipment, and even the old equipment with more space now inside what they call the big room than ever before. But also, one of the things that I don't talk about enough are the various classes, from yoga to Pilates to body shaping to boot camp to cycling to spinnervals to all of everything in between. Numerous instructors for no matter your age or what you like to try to keep yourself in shape or get in shape or stay fit and healthy. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco with pickleball that has exploded, and they have pickleball courts and host tournaments all of the time and have a group that is out there, I don't know, not tonight or not right now because it's cold as hell. And also on top of that, they have Britt Coleman who handles the youth tennis programs, and he is spectacular at what he does with numerous tennis courts throughout. I mean, even a stadium court for any kind of major matches and or tournaments. The high schools play there, the colleges play there, and you can play there and work out there at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now. Destiny is calling, can you hear the sound?
This isn't just another song. This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and Best in Metal, Steel, and Pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Senior Bowl's going on down in Mobile, Alabama. That's where Jerry and others were, among many, anybody NFL. Said Mike McCarthy to call the plays for the Cowboys in 2023. We're joined by John Machota, theathletic.com. And John, Jerry's saying that. Jerry loves to talk. He loves to be the guy. But should we have heard that from Mike McCarthy himself?
Of course. I mean, that's how it works in most organizations, but that's, Jerry likes to get that information out first because he wants you to know that he knows what's going on, and it just, to me, hearing Jerry say that and the way he said it just makes it makes me think that there was a conversation because obviously Jerry wanted Kellen to remain offensive coordinator when Mike became head coach, and Mike said that he wanted Kellen to stay as well. And so everything was great then, but I'm sure when, Kellen had another year left in his contract, so I'm sure when Mike sat down with Jerry and went over the whole decision to move on, I'm sure it included him saying, all right, well then who's calling the plays? Are we hiring somebody else, or are you building off of, what you did in Green Bay? And I'm sure that Jerry wanted Mike to call the plays if Kellen was going to move on. And so that's what Jerry wants, so that's what Jerry gets.
Should Cowboy fans be nervous about that, given how it ended in Green Bay with him calling plays?
Sure. I would just say that I think that he has a quarterback in Dallas that might listen to what he wants to do a little bit more than maybe the quarterback he had towards the end of his time with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's pretty much well publicized that it wasn't great at the end there. So, and it was good at times, obviously. I mean, they went and won a Super Bowl. So, it's tough because I know a lot of people want the new, young, up-and-coming offensive coordinator, new, young offensive mind. But I think that with where Dak is at in his career, and then the fact that Mike's been around him enough to know, his strengths and weaknesses, and I'm sure that there's a little bit of a hunger to get back out there and call plays. So, if he told me that Mike's going to be their offensive coordinator for several seasons, maybe it drops off. But I think in a one-year thing going into it, trying to, hey, let's be honest, he's got to win games to keep his job and keep this, this train on the track. So, I mean, I can get people being nervous about it, but I think I can think of a lot of worse situations than Mike McCarthy calling plays.
So I want to go back on the Kellen Moore, who didn't take long to find a home with the Chargers in L.A. Did Jerry want Kellen Moore back?
That's a good question. I don't know that. I don't think that it would be something that Jerry would really fight over. I think Jerry really he thinks a lot of Mike. I think he thought a lot of Mike the day he hired him, but I think he thinks even more of Mike now than that day. And so if Mike said that this was the best move, I think Jerry would be fine with it. And let's be honest, it's not like, I don't know, like you can watch, if the Tampa Bay game was their last game, I think you could fight them a little bit more on it because, hey, everything looked like it was heading in the right direction. But then you look for the second consecutive year, how things ended with San Francisco, and I would think that he would watch the NFC Championship game and look and see, hey, we're not that far away if we can just fix this offense a little bit. I can see where it'd be easy to talk Jerry into like making an adjustment there because just running it back another year. I mean, how are you improving the offense other than trying to tell him, man, no, it'll be different this year. Let me call the plays. I know it will work for Dak. I know it worked in 2010 and got us Super Bowl in Green Bay. I know what we need to do here. I think Jerry could be talked into that.
John, did you have any idea that you were watching Tom Brady's final football game a couple weeks back?
I absolutely did not. I've been thinking about that a lot today because when I was there, I videotaped like some of the times when he was like walking out or when he ran out onto the field, and in the last few minutes of the game, they let some of the reporters down on the sideline, and so I got to watch like his last touchdown pass, and at the time I never even thought that would be it because I was like, there's no way Tom Brady's going out like this. I really thought that he would do one more year and probably somewhere in like San Francisco where it'd be like a 1 year thing on a team that's just kind of like the Bucs were, it's just ready to roll. It's just missing that quarterback. And so, no, I wasn't thinking that at that time because it had been mentioned by some other reporters when we got to the stadium, and I've just kind of brushed off like, yeah, there's like a 10% chance of that happening. And so, no, I mean, there's a part of me, if I'm being honest, that I'm kind of glad that he is because it's kind of cool that I'll be able to say that I was at his last game and to be like right there on the field when, he shook hands with Dak for the last time and just walked off the field for the last time. I mean, that's pretty cool considering what he's done. So I just think back too on how many more cameras and media members would have been at that game if that was something that he would have said, before the season or even before the playoffs started that, hey, this is it. Like, I think, it was already crazy. So it would have taken it to another level. So I'm kind of glad that didn't happen.
John, the Cowboys have 16 free agents. They do like to keep their own, but they have some really kind of complicated decisions to make. What do you think their top three priorities will be to get done before they get into the weeds about some of the other positions?
Yeah, top of my head, I'd say I'm going to combine as one being a decision with the Tony Pollard, Dalton Schultz thing. I think they're going to move on from Schultz, and I think they're going to have Tony Pollard the franchise tag. And so those are the top two guys on that list, and is how you handle those two. And, they were both very valuable for this team. Look how valuable Dalton Schultz was in the playoffs. But that's a tough decision there with those two. And then the next two after that would be, to me, Donovan Wilson and Leighton Vander Esch, because they're not going to cost as much as those other two, so it's realistic to think that you get one or both of them back. So out of the attainable re-signings, I think those two need to be at the top of the list, and then you just got to figure out what you're going to do with Pollard and Schultz. That's the thing. You'd love to have Schultz back and Pollard, and then just factor in, hey, we got a new offensive play caller. Michael Gallup should be better. Now being 2 years removed from the ACL injury, maybe you get more out of Jalen Tolbert, and then you add something more impactful in free agency than, let's say, James Washington, and then all of a sudden, you're in a good spot. Well, now you say all that, but then you take away Dalton Schultz. Now all of a sudden you're just like, are you sure Peyton Hendershot and Jake Ferguson are ready for that role in year two? Do you have to go out and sign another tight end? So, those two spots, Pollard and Schultz, are at the top of the list for sure.
In 1987 or 1988, Tom Landry was winding down his career, was not sure, did not know, but he was about to be fired by Jerry Jones. The last 2 years as he's the head coach, the legendary Hall of Famer with the Cowboys, and he had a guy named Mike Solari on his staff. That was like 35 years ago, and now Solari is back after numerous stops in the NFL and college. Your thoughts about the new offensive line coach?
Yeah, I like that he's got experience on his side, obviously. I don't know a ton about him. I know of his career and I know the name, but I can't say that I know all of the details of how he's coached offensive lines in the past. But it's an important position. That offensive line coach is a really important position on a staff. And so I'm sure Mike McCarthy put a lot of thought in this and what he wanted from an offensive line coach. So it'll be interesting to see how that all works out because, like I said, I can't think of how, obviously your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator are your two most important assistants. But after that, offensive line coach has to be right up there with the rest. And let's be honest, the offensive line it's had its ups and downs over the last few years. I think they've done a good job developing some players, but health has obviously impacted that too, losing Terrence Steele and things like that. But this offensive line can certainly afford to improve. That probably is lost in the fact a little bit behind the wide receivers and Dak's inconsistent play. But, if you get him a better offensive line, I think that'll help Dak a lot too. So I'm sure that this wasn't just a random decision by Mike McCarthy. I'm sure this is a name that he had in his mind for a while, considering the background that he has.
And I think he may have been with McCarthy at Green Bay for possibly a year. But here's what caught my attention. He tutored Willie Roaf and Will Shields, two of the best, among the best elite Hall of Fame linemen or linemen in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and McCarthy's been around both of those guys, and I think he was an assistant offensive line coach 1 year. I think it was like 2015 with the Packers. So the familiarity is there. Then obviously developing some of those guys. I didn't think Joe Philbin did a bad job. So I didn't think Kellen Moore did a bad job. So it's like they're replacing some of these guys where I'm like, I'm sure this guy's a really good coach. I don't really know that the last guy was a bad coach.
Thank you, John. We appreciate you as always. John Machota, theathletic.com, with us. And boy, it's about to be rapid fire with the Senior Bowl. There's some Baylor players who are still in some all-star games. Some have played, some still have something to go. And then you have the Super Bowl. And then, of course, there's the Combine, then Pro Days, and then all of everything else between now and the draft, which comes up at the end of April. It's going to be a busy couple of 2 or 3 months.
I just can't – I don't see the Cowboys getting better on offense. Like, maybe they get more efficient. Maybe Dak has less interceptions. But numbers-wise, I just kind of see that slipping a little bit. But they've got to get more weapons and things as well. I think that there is the kind of overestimation of what the Cowboys roster, and it's because the Cowboys tell you that it's better than it is. And so people kind of buy that. But ultimately, look, Michael Gallup didn't do anything this year. Jalen Tolbert, that's a long-term project, but was sold like, this guy's at South Alabama and, really should have been somewhere else. Well, in the transfer portal era, he wasn't. So
can you imagine if we actually got checked on opinions more often? Especially during draft season, and all of the guys who are drafted, this guy's gonna be or this free agent signing is gonna be and there was a lot of that with the Cowboys this offseason. A lot of false promises or just falsehoods in terms of what was actually the case.
And look, there are, especially when it comes to evaluating talent, there are unseen factors that we'll never know about this. Sure. Look, if this guy's only job was to do these 3 things, then he'd probably be great at it. But it's the other 20 things you ask a professional football player to do that he's just not as good at, and you can't know that until he does it. But there's all those things they did, and at the end of it, they were still a really good team, but they have been a really good team a lot. really good teams don't win the Super Bowl. Great ones do.
Or hot ones like the Giants, who had Hall of Famers like Michael Strahan, among others, and maybe before it's all said and done, Eli Manning. One note, we had Dr. Elza on Nebraska, Matt Rule's chief of staff. He today filed a $5 million complaint against the Panthers and their owner, David Tepper, on, again, part of the Nebraska money that he's getting, which was a huge contract, $72 million over 8 years, was going to offset what he was owed after he was fired by the Panthers, but not all of it. And so he's a $5 million complaint. That's going to end up probably going to arbitration. We'll see what happens with that. If you're owed the money, you want it, you go and get it, you get whatever you possibly can. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
5:51 today.
Yeah, so we're somewhere in there. We're in it. But this is the top 5 toughest Big 12 schedules in my opinion. Just going through it, and I've spent way more time on it than I probably ever would, based on everything that we've been through here. But with the way I wouldn't think about it. But I looked. Texas Tech has very few home games, and they don't have back-to-back home games. I'm sorry. That is what it is. I closed the tab on my schedule here, and I feel like an idiot. But Texas Tech is number 5. They don't have back-to-back home games the entire year. After Oregon and Tarleton State. After that, they're every other week the whole year, as where many other teams in the league have either a couple patches of back-to-backs together, or like Baylor that has their first 4 together and 5 of their first 6. And while that's probably not that big of a deal, I do think that gets hard down the stretch of a season where you don't get 2 weeks in a row at home, where it'd just be nice not to have to get on a plane, figure out, are some guys can come to this one? Do we have to leave some home? It's just better, especially a team that has such a great home field advantage like they do, not to be able maybe to carry that momentum. And that was also a team last year that, until the end of the year, didn't win on the road. So not getting to do that 2 weeks in a row could be a challenge for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have, the first 3 that they'll be able to enjoy. And then it's off to West Virginia for Big 12 play, and we'll kind of see what shakes out from there. But they'll be, in Morgantown, in Waco, in Provo, and then in Lawrence and in Austin. So that'll be, dicey potentially. I mean, they were 1-4 last year when it came to road games. So they feasted on the home schedule. Oregon being the second week of the year, they'll be 1-0 after beating Wyoming. But, who knows how that game goes. I think that'll be kind of like Baylor and Utah. That'll kind of take you to the left or to the right, right there at the beginning of the year. So I'm definitely looking forward to Red Raiders and Ducks. But, yeah, they should enjoy it. And, I mentioned with Baylor yesterday, that their first month basically is at home. And so then after that, they have the benefit of those 8 games, but you really got to take advantage of that home schedule. And so, yeah, that if they can win on the road more consistently than they did in year number 1, they should be a very good team that's in the 9 or 10 win range.
Who's that?
Texas Tech.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. That they should be in the 9 or 10 win range if they can correct the road stuff. But yeah, easier said than done, obviously.
Number 4, Kansas. They are resurgent. Obviously got to a bowl, but BYU at home, Texas on the road, UCF at home, Oklahoma State on the road before the bye, and then Oklahoma right after the bye at home. But closing out with Tech, Kansas State, and Cincinnati, that's pretty tough. I mean, to me, I think that the way that theirs flows as far as who they've got to play, where they've got to go, is really tough. And that's not even to mention that they do host Illinois at home to start the year, and that's a very, very good defense and a really good team from the Big Ten last year, or a pretty good team from the Big Ten last year. That's going to be tough for Kansas. It should be fun, but again, I don't think they got dealt any favors here with this schedule. In year 2 of Lance Leipold trying to make this good.
I mean, I don't think there's any layups when you're Kansas anyways. Yeah. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of the Big 12 now, is there's not necessarily a layup because I feel like that everybody's layup was Kansas at one point in time. Maybe it's more of West Virginia, but that's not even a layup because that can depend mightily on, are you playing them on a Saturday at 2 p.m. at home, or are you playing them in Morgantown on a Thursday night? Because that matters, and that mattered last year, as we saw when Baylor went out there and had to play on a Thursday night in Morgantown. But Kansas doesn't play West Virginia. They don't have them on the schedule. But what they do have is after the Nevada game, basically no given on the entire schedule. Yeah. BYU at home, you'd think they should probably win that game, but are you going to put your next paycheck behind that? Absolutely not. At Texas, UCF at home, I think UCF's going to be pretty good. I think John Rice Plumlee is going to be problematic for some people. At Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, at Iowa State. I don't know. The Cyclones are the wild card here because I have no idea what to expect from them. Are they going to just resort to being kind of middle of the road, or are they going to be the team that was contending for a Big 12 title a couple years back, or at least in that mix for a little stretch? Texas Tech, K-State, and at Cincinnati to close. I mean, Yeah, I mean, they're going to really have to take care of their non-conference schedule, and then and we'll see from there. But that's going to be a very interesting road for the Jayhawks.
Well, speaking of Iowa State, the team in Iowa that will have a new offensive coordinator, Iowa will not, because Kirk Ferentz doesn't need your pity. Absolutely not. But Iowa State, to me, third. I mean, they've got Iowa, which, look, they just finally got over that hump last year, and it took an historically bad offense from Iowa to make that happen. Then Oklahoma State, Oklahoma on the road, and this is where, to me, it gets dicey. You got TCU at home, then you go on the road to Cincinnati, which we don't know about Cincinnati, then Baylor, Kansas, BYU, Texas, and Kansas State to close the season. That could be a gauntlet for Iowa State down the stretch.
I see 2 for sure wins on their schedule, and that's about it. I would think that you go ahead and put your money down on them beating Northern Iowa and Ohio. At Ohio, though, that's interesting. But Iowa, I mean, that's always a toss-up. They finally, were able to win that game, and then they turned in one of their worst records in years. So it's like that game didn't matter at all, or wasn't foreshadowing, success just by beating the Hawkeyes. But, yeah, I don't know what to make of them. I mean, is this just we rolling with Hunter Deckers and, replacing some of these NFL guys just like it's nothing, or is that going to be something that not having your Will McDonald's and those types of players, and obviously reeling from not having your Brock Purdy's anymore, and players like that, how much can they replace, and how quickly can they kind of get back to where they were the last few years as opposed to last year? But yeah, that's a toughie. I mean, that's one of those that I think you're trying to figure out how you make a bowl game with that schedule right there. I mean, if I was an Iowa State fan, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I'd go 1-0, maybe 2-0, maybe 1-1, 2-1 or 3-0, and then after that, like, who the heck knows what that turns into?
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, BYU, and we had Kalani Sitake on the show yesterday, and he did say, they've been kind of playing schedules like this for a while, but even still, Arkansas and Kansas back-to-back, kind of weird. Those guys, 2 played an epically great bowl game to watch. But Arkansas and Kansas, both on the road. Cincinnati at home, the bye. And then they close out TCU, Texas, West Virginia on the road after Texas on the road, Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. But that little 4-game stretch of at TCU, home for Tech, at Texas, and at West Virginia, and that's a drag right there. That's tough. That's a lot of miles, especially that's the 2 furthest corners of the conference playing each other, and that's a long haul after you've already gone to Texas 2 times, and now you got to go all the way across the country after the bye. So there's not even a bye in the middle of that travel. It is after their bye, and then they just hit it hard down the way.
Yeah, I mean, they should beat Sam Houston and beat Southern Utah. And then after that, I mean, at Arkansas, at Kansas, and Cincinnati on a Friday night in Provo, like that should be a raucous atmosphere at LaVell Edwards Stadium, getting the Bearcats on a Friday night. So that'll be unique. But as I wrote, like, that's one of the things that I looked at was like, what are the Thursday and Friday games? Because those things are crapshoots and just wild cards on your schedule. Like I mentioned, the Morgantown game on Thursday. Baylor also played Black Friday in Austin, and that can throw you off a little bit. So that Friday against Cincinnati is not too much of a departure from the norm, but it'll make for, a unique setting, like I said, and should be a pretty big broadcast. But yeah, that second half of the year is looking to, 3 of your first 4 games are on the road, and the one that's not is Texas Tech, and we know that they're going to be pretty salty and tough. So yeah, in Fort Worth, in Austin, in Morgantown, and then Oklahoma and in Stillwater to close the year. They didn't give them any. I mean, they gave them a great schedule for traveling. If you're a BYU fan, you love this schedule because you can go, check out a bunch of cool places, or some, new digs that you're not used to. But yeah, it's going to be a real tough, especially that second half for Kalani Sitake and company.
All right, and number 1, West Virginia. All right. Maybe just keep count of the games and we can go over it after I run through it. Tell me which of these games they're definitely going to be favored in. Penn State.
No.
Duquesne.
Yeah.
Pitt. Maybe.
That's the maybe. Yeah, I've seen some West Virginia fans expressing some confidence with that one, and I've seen some just flat out chalk it up. But I don't know what we're dealing with here with people.
And that's a crazy big rivalry, but still. But that's a maybe. Tech.
No.
Even at home, no. TCU on the road.
No.
At Houston on a Thursday night against a head coach who hates you.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of Houston just yet. But, yeah, on the road with Dana wanting vengeance on a Thursday, like, again, that weird playing not on a Saturday, it always seems to matter to some extent. So, yeah, that wouldn't be probably, if they're going to be favored, it won't be by much, you wouldn't think. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And, again, that's just one of those things that's a factor that if I'm West Virginia, like, all right, the guy that we fell out with and he left us to go there and there's all this bitterness, we're kind of reeling afterwards. Dana Holgerson would love to be the nail in West Virginia's coffin. He would love it. Oklahoma State, again, that's no, but it's probably more than likely. UCF on the road, they will not be favored in that game. John Rice Plummet, they will not be favored against UCF on the road. BYU at home.
To be fair, Oklahoma State's got plenty of questions too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I feel okay with Alan Bowman, and I think they'll be all right eventually once the portal settles down. But that's not as dangerous maybe as it typically is, but I still think they're probably better than we're thinking they're going to be. So, yeah, I would still favor Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, Gundy's still a good coach.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he still can figure these things out. UCF on the road, like I said, not going to be favored. BYU, probably not going to be favored in that one, even though it's at home.
Probably not. Yeah.
Oklahoma on the road, not going to be favored. Cincinnati, probably not going to be favored. I don't know. We'll see that one. I don't know.
A lot of it depends on who they are by then. Yeah,
the new schools, we just don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel the most confident in UCF adapting the quickest. I think because, quarterback, and I just think that they're set up pretty well. But, yeah, I mean, BYU did not have a great year. Cincinnati didn't have a great year. They still won 8 games, though. So they were, I mean, considering all that they were dealing with, that wasn't too bad. But I do think BYU, how good they are, how good Cincinnati will be, and how good Houston will be are all question marks. And to what extent UCF is good, I don't know either, but I just feel the best about them as far as the new schools
and
go.
Especially in comparison to where West Virginia is right now compared to where they are.
Yeah.
Like, they're ahead of West Virginia right now. I mean, they know who their quarterback's going to be. They've got a head coach who's going to be there. Like, they know that. Like, this is – if I was setting up a schedule to make sure that I was coming back, if I was Neil Brown, it would not be this one. And, again, he doesn't have the say in it, but this is certainly it's going to be, if he makes it through this one really well, then absolutely you should keep him because it is tough.
Yeah, well, it sometimes it's not quite like the NFL where you never know what a team is the next year. In the Big 12, we've seen that, though, with Baylor 2 years ago, TCU this year, and so who knows? I'm not saying that's going to be West Virginia, but maybe they're just slightly better. A couple of the teams are a tick down, and they win a couple of games they're not expected to win.
Yeah, they're not going to jump up and be in the title game.
No.
I feel very confident in saying that, but they could, they can definitely be a bowl team, which they were not this year. I think a lot will depend on that Pitt game in week 2 or week 3 and whether or not, because I don't really have any faith in winning at Penn State. I mean, I think that's going to be a top 10 team entering next year. So, I don't feel great. But that Pitt game, the difference between starting potentially 0-3 and 1-2 and then heading into Big 12 play and knowing you got Tech, TCU, at Houston, et cetera, coming down the pipeline. Yeah, I think that Pitt rivalry game will be massive for a lot of different reasons. But, Neil Brown does not have the easiest of schedules to try and cool down that hot seat.
All right. Thank you, all of you in the chat room, and thanks to everyone in the text line, and also those of you watching or listening, and you're there. And, of course, today an amazing feedback from all of you, and Lorenzo Hayes especially because of the number you popped at 100, but the 20 from Katie, 19 from Eric among the 2-and-1s and others. We appreciate it. Retired stockbroker Larry Pilgrim tried to throw in a super chat. It got rejected for whatever reason, but we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks to everybody. Again, love each other in the chat room. Please do that and enjoy. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie was here earlier. Thanks to our amazing sponsors. We start another month. This is 365 Sports, and good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need